everybody. Welcome back to Passions Podcast, the podcast where we talk about the soap opera passions. I am your regular host, LeTara, back today with returning guest host, Karen.
Hello. What is up?
What is up? Welcome back,
Yep.
Karen. How are you doing?
I'm good. I have some hatred in my heart this weekend for specifically Antonio, as usual,
Mm.
Grace, and Miguel.
Oh my God, Grace, especially for me this week. Like, I
Yeah, awful.
Antonio's annoying, but again, I will reiterate like I did last week. And I did get a little bit of pushback from the Discord on this, but um I again have a little bit of sympathy for Antonio this week. I do. Dude's dying. I do. I have a little I do. I don't know. And he really is taking the news of him dying on the chin. Like he's taking that news so well.
Yes, he is. I think my problem with him, and we can talk about this more, we're sort of jumping ahead, but we can talk about this more when we get to that part of the episode. But he is being, he's either being so oblivious or he is being willfully ignorant of the fact that Sheridan has some major stuff going on that she is not talking to him about, and he is not addressing that. He's brushing over it,
Yeah.
and it's very frustrating to me.
Oh, I still hate him. Still loathe him entirely. It's just not as fervent as it was like a couple of weeks ago because I have like
Mhm.
the teeniest little bit of sympathy for the guy.
Yeah, I
But
hear you.
we watched episodes 846 through 850. Yes, that's
Hmm.
right. Yes, great. So we'll jump right into those after a quick shout out to all the patrons over on Patreon. Thank you to Munashe, Lise. I'm gonna start saying like when I have like double people who have the same first name, I'm gonna start saying the last initial as well because now we have three Lisas. so
Oh my gosh.
so thank you to Munashe, Lisa S, Zach, Sid, Sarana, Randall, Hannah, Camelia, Jeanette, Eric, Fantasia, Sean S, Larissa, Maria, Lisa A, Jessica Jean, Laura, Karen, Uche, Justin, Paige, Casey, Garanch, Tom Bergeron, Daisy, Shane, Kelly, Taylor Harris Crane, DJ, Kelly. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I forgot. I have two Kellys. So I have to do Kelly C and Kelly M and Lisa R. Thank you so much. Lisa R is our newest patron. So thank you to Lisa for joining up.
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you. She is I believe our other Gwen fan. She was Maria's like the person who
Oh.
commented that Maria's her favorite guest host because Maria calls Theresa on her bullshit. And I love that. I love she got her one. So,
That's nice. That's good.
that's good for you. No,
Hmm.
I'm thrilled to have Lisa on board and everybody, all of you. We have such a good time on watch parties, which we have, we have one this week on the 29th of May. And I was just considering going to see Beyonce again because if you're not watching, I'm wearing my Beyonce shirt. I went to see Beyonce last night, so y'all, my voice is already tired. My body is tired, baby. I had a time. I had a time. And so I was telling Karen when I got on, I was looking at tickets for Thursday night, and she was like, "We have a watch party on Thursday." So much for that. So I'm choosing y'all over Beyonce. So just
We know we're loved.
look at me.
Thank you.
All right. So with that, on with the show, everybody. We are talking about 846 through 850. Honestly, it was a good week. It again, the show is ramping up so much that I am having so many. I have like 11 pages of notes again. I'm
Hmm.
going to try to fit everything in one episode this time. I do like doing those double episodes, but I want to try to get everything in one episode. But if we don't, we don't. So I'm going to go ahead and say here, welcome to part one. So we're going to start today with the troubled marriages storylines. It's because that is Karen's favorite. So we'll start with Ivy and Sam and all of them. And then we'll also touch on what's going on with Eve and Liz and TC, because good Lord, Liz is out for blood. Truly, she
Yes, she
literally
is.
told Eve, like, I don't want your money. I want you to suffer, because Eve tried to pay her off, and she was like, nah, that's not gonna work. So
Nope.
so let's pick up into troubled marriages. I told Karen that she could take the lead on this today, since it's her favorite, and frankly, I'm tired. So
Okay.
what's going on with these people?
Okay. And my notes are a little bit mixed together with Grace and David stuff and then Sam and Ivy going back and forth. So I'll do it that way. I know sometimes we section it off and it's like we just talk about one group of people and then the other, but I'm going to start it with Grace and David.
Mm-hmm.
And we see Grace and David in the Bennett house. Grace is hugging David and she's being whiny and asking David if he thinks Sam will come home soon. They hear a car start up and drive away outside. And Grace is like, I think that's Sam's car. And she runs to the window and looks out. And she doesn't understand why, if that was Sam's car, he's leaving instead of coming in and talking to her. And she's also upset because she thought she saw a woman in the passenger seat of the car. So, again,
Mm-hmm.
if that is Sam, who is this woman in the car with him?
Who is this lady?
Yeah.
Mm.
And then you see Sam in the car, and you see indeed the woman who is with him, and that's Ivy, of course. They're driving to the Crane mansion. Sam, in last week's episodes, Ivy's wheelchair broke down because
No, no,
she
no, no, no. Ivy's wheelchair
she
did
made
not
it
break
break
down.
down.
Ivy sabotaged her own wheelchair so that
Yes,
Sam would be forced to take her home.
right.
Yeah, and here's my thing. Did she How did she get there in the first place, right? Like, why is he forced to take her home just because her wheelchair isn't working anymore?
Yeah, I wasn't quite clear on that. I think we were talking about it on the watch party, and we were saying, well, maybe she followed him back to the Bennett house.
Right. So, like, did she ride in the car with him? Right. Like, how did they get to his
I guess
house?
I guess they were walking. Well, Sam was walking and Ivy was rolling in her wheelchair because why would Grace have heard his car start up and
Mm,
pull away but not hear the car pull in and
yeah.
cut off? I don't know. That's one other thing I meant to mention at the beginning of the episode. I think you talked about this on the podcast a long time ago, but I feel like some of the Passions characters this week were acting like rogue Sims and running around when they shouldn't be, or you're like, how did this character get from this place to this place? This doesn't make sense.
Oh
And
my
this
God.
was
Yeah,
one of those incidents.
there was a lot of like kind of jumping around, like, how
Yeah.
did we get here? How did we get here?
Yeah.
This week? Absolutely. I'm like, and to the point that but I was like trying to get through the episodes. I was like, Tara, you don't have the time. But I almost went back to last week's episodes to make sure I wasn't crazy, because we pick up in the same night. Right? Like the
Mhm.
day hasn't rolled over. We're still
Another endless night in this show.
Yeah, we're still in the same day and night of the elevator incident and of Sheridan and Antonio's like ambush wedding. All of
Hmm.
that has happened tonight, and then also these things are happening tonight,
Right.
and it's also Halloween.
Yeah.
Oh, and it's also Halloween now. So
I
we've
don't
like
know.
skipped, and people are in new places, and we don't know how they got there. So yes, I agree. What is going on, Passions? But yes, go on.
We'll just assume Ivy followed Sam home and he
Hmm.
was okay with that because we know he secretly still loves her.
Not so secret.
Yeah, not so secret. Good. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah,
Thank you for validating me.
it's
Because
not so
sometimes I'm
secret.
like, is this just my feeling about it, or do other people actually see this too?
He denies it. He denies it out of his mouth, right? But
Right.
what he does says something different, right?
Exactly.
The
Words and
choices he
actions.
makes, yeah, the choices he makes, his actions that the actions he takes, they show us something different. Yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
they're in the car, headed back to the mansion. Sam is thinking about how, he saw David. I mean, he saw Grace tell David that she loved him, right? So
Hmm.
he's all upset about this. And that's why he was home in the first place, right? Like we have to remember he had gone home specifically because he wanted to have a conversation with Grace about where they stand in their marriage. He
Yeah.
didn't get a chance to have that conversation because when he got there, he lurked outside his own home and looked through the window and saw David inside holding his wife. And
Hmm.
he was going to go in, but he was, Ivy, did what she did. And so he decided to go off with Ivy. I frankly, truthfully, I think he should have made Ivy wait. Like, I can take you home, but I have to do this first. I,
Hmm.
again, with the actions, it's like you chose Ivy over going in and fighting for your wife.
Right.
You chose to take her home, which could
Yeah.
wait. Ivy
Yeah.
wasn't in mortal danger. It wasn't like you needed to take her to the hospital. You were taking her home, which could wait.
Hmm. Yeah, but this is a trope we see on the show a lot, right? And in soap operas in general, a lot, where you have characters who are in love, something happens, they see something going on that they take one way when it's actually not that way, but then they never have a conversation about it. They just get upset and one of them lets the other know they're mad, but the other character is like, "Why are you mad at me? I don't understand."
Yeah. We're doing
It's
that in the Shui. We're
frustrating.
doing that in the Shui storyline right now, and it is very
Uh-huh.
annoying. But
A
yeah,
lot of that.
so let's let's go on with Sam and Ivy at the going to the mansion.
You see Sam carry Ivy in the mansion.
Yeah, like he's carrying her as a bride over the threshold. She is
Right.
giddy, happy as a clam.
Yep, she's very happy. And then I believe Rebecca is out in the foyer, right?
Because
And she's like, what are you doing?
she's trying to keep people from going into the living room.
Yeah.
She's like standing guard there because she wants Ethan to propose to Gwen, which is a whole other thing we will talk about later.
Hmm.
But when Ivy and Sam come through the front door, she's like, "What the hell is going on here?" And she tries to explain to Ivy why she's there, but Ivy's like, "You need to move out of the way so Sam can put me down," right?
Yeah,
So
they're
they
not
barge
listening to her.
into the living room and breaks up this thing that Gwen and Rebecca believe is going to happen, but we as viewers know it's not going to happen. Um, and so Rebecca's all upset about it, blah blah blah, of course. But yeah, he sits her down on the couch, and then what?
Yep. And Ivy and Sam explained what happened, that her wheelchair broke down and he helped her out. He brought her back to the mansion. And then Ethan says, I think there's another wheelchair in the garage. Let's go get that. He and Sam go to grab that. And then Rebecca sits down with Ivy and she's mad at Ivy. She explains that they interrupted Ethan proposing to Gwen. And Ivy's upset that they interrupted, but she also tells Sam, don't begrudge me my night with Sam.
Mm-hmm. The next thing at the mansion really is that Ethan and Sam have a conversation, which goes here and in the Theresa and Ethan stuff. Because they
Hmm.
go and find the wheelchair, they bring it back, then they have like a whole conversation wherein Ethan says, I'm gonna propose to Gwen. Sam says to him, you know what? That's great. He's shocked. He's shocked because I think everybody should be shocked. Ethan shouldn't be proposing to anybody. But he tells him, you know what? Gwen's a great girl. Ethan says to him, you know what? She is a great girl. She reminds me of
Reminds
Grace.
me, yes.
She reminds me a lot of Grace, which is not real.
No,
I can't
they're not alike.
I can't think of one thing between Ivy and Grace that are similar. Like Grace is domestic. I said Ivy, I meant Gwen.
When?
Between Gwen and Grace that are like parallels or similar. Grace is domestic. I've never seen Gwen bake a cake. I've never seen Gwen clean anything. She's had servants her whole life.
Hmm.
Um, Grace is like sweet and kind and almost too sweet and super super religious. I mean, I just don't see it for Gwen, but
Yeah.
Ethan is an idiot. Um, and whatever. He says she reminds me a lot of Grace. I hope we have a happy marriage just like you and Grace. I hope we have a long lasting marriage just like you and Grace. And Sam like stops him and is like, well, maybe you don't want to hope that.
Right. He says something along the lines of, my marriage isn't as solid as you think. And he starts talking about his problems with Grace and what's going on with David. And Ethan basically says, wow, that shakes my faith in marriage if you and Grace are having a hard time.
Yeah.
Sam tells Ethan to go with his heart when he's deciding who to propose to. Ethan, I guess we should address that more later in
Yeah,
the
we can talk
fated
about it.
couple stuff.
We can talk about that a little bit later. Yeah, but he does tell
But
him, go for it.
but one thing that's important is their conversation. Ethan talks about how Ivy never got over Sam.
Mm-hmm.
And Sam says there's nothing I can do about that now. And Ethan wonders, well, if things don't work out with you and Grace, is there a chance that you and my mom can get back together? And then he feels bad. He's like, I shouldn't even be bringing this up. I sound like a kid wanting his parents to get back together. Sam's like, it's okay. That's only natural that you want to see your parents together. And he says, I won't lie to you. I'll always have feelings for Ivy.
Mm-hmm.
But remember that, that's important later. But I'll never give up my marriage with Grace for her.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's pretty much that. They bring in Ivy's wheelchair. Sam helps her in the wheelchair, and he's ready to leave. But Ivy says, oh, are you going so soon? Why don't you stay for coffee? It's the least I can do after you were so nice to bring me home and get my wheelchair.
She says you don't have anything to rush home to. Oh my
Oh, yeah.
God.
Oh, yeah.
Girl.
She does.
She said, what are you rushing home to?
Yes. Uh, so
Oh.
Sam agrees to stay. He doesn't need a lot of convincing either, in
No,
my
he doesn't.
opinion.
I think he doesn't want to have this. I think he knows the conversation he has to have with Grace is a tough conversation. I think he's scared of the answers he's going to get from Grace. I think he's worried to hear her truth, right?
Hmm.
Even if because he does know that a portion of her truth is that she loves David, right?
Yeah.
But what Grace's whole truth is that she loves David, but she loves Sam more. She wants her marriage with Sam.
Hmm.
That's at least what she's been saying. And I do believe Grace. I actually believe Sam too when he says he wants his marriage. I do believe that neither one of these people want to break up their marriage. I think they want to choose each other. I think they want to get over this, but they want to just get over it instead of working through it.
Hmm.
So they have to do this like hard thing, and neither of them really wants to do it, which is understandable. It's an unpleasant conversation, and it's not just one conversation. It's going to have to be multiple conversations, right? Like David isn't going anywhere, and neither are Grace's feelings. Ivy isn't going anywhere, and really neither are Sam's feelings, right? In fact, those feelings are changing and evolving, especially
Hmm.
with the added pressure of like we have these sons, right? We both have kids with other people, and we're gonna have to start spending time with them kind of as a family unit. And that's gonna make things for us very, very tough, right? That's something we're gonna have to figure out and be able to deal with. And I think personally, it seems like the reason why it wasn't so hard for her to keep Sam there is because Sam doesn't want to have this conversation yet, right? Like
Yeah.
he knows he needs to, but he's happy for the distraction. That's what I think.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're both struggling. They're both having these feelings. I think Grace is a little more close to recognizing what you were saying, that she has feelings for David. She loves David, but she loves Sam more. She wants to choose her marriage. I I think Sam is similar, but I think he's still at that point where he is very much wrestling with his feelings for Ivy, and he is not even willing to admit that. He's slipping up a little now and admitting that to Ethan. I don't think he's ever said to anyone that he has feelings for Ivy before. He said mean stuff to Ivy before, like, I have feelings for you, but they're hatred. Well, maybe that
Oh,
one time at
remember
the
when she was in the
ski
hospital?
lodge.
There
Oh
was
yeah.
that time when she was in the
Yeah.
hospital, and yes, Eve told him to lie to her, but at a certain point, it did switch to "I love you, Ivy. I've never stopped loving you," and it was like
Yeah.
very sincere. It was clear. It was clearly not him lying or faking. Um, so
But
I count that.
he didn't want her to believe that.
Right. I mean, well, I think he did want her to believe that because he wanted her to live. The whole point of him doing that was like because he thought she was gonna die. You know. So
Yeah, but I don't know. That whole thing was left unresolved,
yeah.
I think, because he said all that. And then it was like later he came in her room and took it back, sort of, and said, I care about you, but Grace is the one I want to be with. I think she was sleeping at that point when he said that.
Yeah. So I think the thing is basically, and then we gotta move on. Um, basically, Grace is being more honest about her feelings than Sam is. When
Yeah.
we boil it all the way down, Grace is being
Hmm.
more honest about the feelings that she is feeling for David, and Sam refuses to actually acknowledge to Grace or anybody else the feelings that he still has that he still harbors for Ivy. So
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, they come back with a wheelchair and she takes Sam off for a nightcap and puts some he asks for a little bit of whiskey. I think she says, I know, I still remember what kind of drink you like, coffee
Hmm.
with whiskey. And like, weren't they like, I don't know, teenagers when they were dating, like late teens, early 20s? Like what teenager is like having like
Yeah, that's a good
Irish
point.
coffee? I don't know. I don't know. It just was a funny like, oh, your favorite drink when we were 19 was black coffee with whiskey in it.
Maybe
Okay.
they do things differently in Harmony.
Well, um, but yeah, they have this like they're having like a little trip down memory lane.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah,
very nice.
she says, remember when you would come back from your long days of working on the fishing boat and I would make this drink for you. And she says it was the happiest days of her life. And Sam is getting a little uncomfortable with the conversation, I think. And he says, oh, I must have really reeked of fish. And
Mhm.
Ivy says, I never noticed. I must have been too in love to notice. And he seems to be getting more uncomfortable. So Ivy says, how's the coffee? And he says, perfect. But he's looking right at her when he's saying that.
Yeah, I
I,
mean, he definitely is. He still is enamored with her at least,
hmm.
you know. Yeah, and Ivy's a beautiful woman. It's hard not to look at her.
Hmm.
She commands your attention for sure.
Yeah.
Um, so they do all of this. Sam's like, I gotta go home. I need to go talk to my wife. I gotta figure out where our marriage stands. And then there's a mishap with some grape juice. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. Well, first, you see David and Grace at the Bennett house, and they're talking about her relationship with Sam. Um, so one of the reasons why Sam and Ivy went in the solarium was they were getting coffee, but he also needed to use the phone to call the police station to let
Right.
them know where he was.
Yeah.
So Grace is looking for Sam, and she calls the police station, and she hears from one of the officers at the station that Sam is at the Crane Mansion and he's not there for official police business. So this makes Grace upset, and she's like, I have to go and see what's going on. She grabs her keys. David offers to come with her. While she's getting her car keys, he calls Ivy quickly. And her phone starts ringing. She's like, what the heck? Why is someone calling me so late? She rolls away from Sam and takes David's call, and he explains that Grace is on her way. And she basically plans to have herself and Sam in a compromising position by the time Grace gets there. David says that would devastate Grace. So again, he's in the plot to get Grace, but he's also being wishy-washy.
David drives me nuts because yeah,
Yeah.
all of that happened. He calls Ivy. He tells Ivy, Grace is on her way over there, so you need to like get Sam out of there, basically, right? You don't want her to see something or whatever. And Ivy's like, no, of course I want her to see.
Hmm.
Maybe this will be the thing that breaks them up. And yeah, and he's like, oh, you evil bitch, you da da da. Again, if it's so bad, then tell the truth, David. I
Right.
listen. Do I agree with what Ivy is doing? No. But the way David is like handling it bothers me because he acts like he's so above Ivy and he's doing practically the same thing that
Hmm.
she is doing. The only thing he's not doing is blackmailing somebody.
Yeah.
But he is 100% involved in this deception. And if Ivy's an evil snake, then so are you, sir.
Hmm.
So are you. Because
Yeah.
you are doing her bidding. Frankly, you're doing it willingly. You are.
Hmm.
I know she's like, quote, blackmailing you, even though I've seen no proof of anything. No, like she can say anything. What does she have on him? I know we
Yeah.
never find that out, but yeah, he irritates me. And I know I've said this before, but it bears repeating. David could just tell the truth, but it gives that like Simone. He does that same thing that Simone does with Kay, where he's just like, although Simone's not actively involved in Kay's plots and schemes, so at least
Hmm.
Simone has that going for her. But David is actively involved in Ivy's plots and schemes and is also admonishing her and calling her all kinds of names and calling her evil. You are doing her bidding.
Hmm.
He drives me crazy. But go on. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Eve situation, Eve and Ivy, when Ivy was blackmailing Eve,
Yeah.
and Eve would call her an evil bitch and tell her how terrible she was for doing what she's doing, but Eve would never do anything to stop it.
Yep. You
Is
could just tell the
the
truth.
is the blackmail is whatever is in the blackmail really worse than keeping the secret from your friend or the woman you supposedly love?
Yeah.
I
And
don't know.
the thing about Eve's blackmail is at least we know the stakes, right?
Yeah,
At least I know what the stakes are for Eve. I don't know what the stakes are for David. I
right.
so I can't so I really, really, really cannot be on his side for any of this.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's
it's
not his
supposed to
fault.
be something very, very bad.
It must be
The
something
passions won't
horrible.
tell us what it is.
I wish
Yeah.
I knew. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah,
Me
so they
too.
head over to the Crane Mansion. David knows full well what's about to happen. Grace
Yeah.
has no clue. So
Yeah. So Ivy's plot to get Sam in a compromising position is she asks him to pour her some grape juice. And then when he's getting ready to hand her the juice, she makes her wheelchair lurch forward and bumps into Sam and gets grape juice all over him.
and
You're rolling your eyes.
yes, I am because this was so stupid. So you spill grape juice on yourself at somebody else's house. You then take off all your clothes and go get in the shower. Why? When you were already going home. And it was what, 6 ounces of grape juice? You were
Yeah.
already going home. It's not like you had somewhere else to be. It's not like you had to go to work.
Yeah.
You were going to go home. Go home and change, take a shower. I don't, you live across town. You don't live
Yeah.
hours away.
Yeah. So Ivy, he says, "Oh, I need to go to the police station and shower and change clothes," but Ivy offers to let him go upstairs to her bedroom, take off his clothes, take a shower, let the maids wash his clothes.
Sam kills me because he knows
Yeah,
how Ivy feels about him.
he does.
He knows how Ivy feels about him. He has to. You're a cop. You are the chief of police, and you can't work out that this lady is trying to get you in bed with her. You are
He has it worked out.
the. Yeah,
He absolutely has it worked out.
yeah, yeah.
He is not caring because he is hurt by Grace and he thinks maybe it's time to push the boundaries a little with Ivy. And
Yeah, maybe.
yeah, he goes upstairs to the shower and then there's more stuff that happens after that that again makes me think,
And
okay,
why
I'm
shower
upset.
in Ivy's shower in her? This is a mansion.
Yeah.
This is a mansion. You tell me y'all don't have a guest room where he can go shower? You
Hmm.
showering in Ivy's bathroom. Ugh. And
Yeah.
whose robe was that? Julian's? When he gets out the shower?
That's what I was wondering too. I thought, is this one of Ethan's old robes that she grabbed when she knew Sam was in her shower? Again, this is stuff in passions that's not making it clear
Oh,
exactly what's going on.
I do want to say before, so when she's like working out her scheme with the grape juice and everything, Ivy kind of says to herself very deviously, she's like, very soon Sam will be naked and wet in my
What?
bedroom. What could
Yeah.
be more wonderful than that? Oh, yeah. Grace, there to see it all. I love it. She's so devious.
She is.
God.
It's good. I love it.
Yeah. Oh, so
Um,
yeah, he gets out of the shower. His clothes aren't ready yet, right? Of course, because it
wait,
takes at
wait,
least what?
wait.
No, we gotta keep
So
moving.
I'm trying, but there's so much funny stuff. Grace and David are on their way to the Crane Mansion. Grace has a premonition of Ivy and Sam together in her bedroom. They're both in towels and they're going to her bed. Sam sits down on the bed and pulls Ivy down on top of him. And then Grace is like, oh my God. And David wants to know what she saw, but she won't tell him.
Yeah.
Ivy goes upstairs and Sam is in the shower. She opens the bathroom door and watches him while
Oh
he's
my
in the
God. And
shower.
Rebecca comes in too.
Then Rebecca comes in
Yeah.
to chastise Ivy more about messing up Ethan proposing to Gwen. And Ivy's facial expressions are awesome here. I love it.
And they're
They
just,
cracked
I
me up.
want to say, they're just watching Sam in the shower
Yeah,
because
yeah.
the shower has like a glass door, right? So they can
Mhm.
see him naked. It's just steamed up.
See, I got excited and I dumped water on
Oh my
myself.
gosh, you got to get naked and get in the shower. You spilled juice
Yeah,
all over yourself. Now you
right. Where's
take a
Sam Bennett?
shower.
I need Sam Bennett.
Yeah, so yeah, Rebecca comes in. They have some little witty back and forth. This is when Ivy tells her, like, of course I want Ethan and Gwen to get married, but let me have this right now. Like, I
Hmm.
can't do
Yeah.
that right now. Yeah, this
Yeah,
is
she
more
says,
important.
I have other irons in the fire right now, Rebecca.
Mm-hmm.
And Rebecca leaves. She pats I she takes because Ivy had pulled the bathroom door partially shut when Rebecca came in, but Rebecca looks around at Sam and she makes a nice facial expression and she gives Ivy this pat on the shoulder, sort of like, go get him, Tiger. And then she leaves. Sam finishes his shower
Oh, you know what?
and
I'm so sorry. I just realized none of my sounds have been working because I didn't have my setting on. I did the Rebecca sound. Did you
oh,
hear it?
I didn't. Now I do. There we
I played
go.
the applause earlier. I played the horns. I played several sounds and I just realized I didn't have the settings right, so you wouldn't have been able to hear it. Oh,
Oh,
damn. Oh, well.
it's
Keep
okay.
going.
The Rebecca sound effect is a good one to start with, so
Yeah.
that's fine. Okay, so Sam finishes his shower. Ivy rolls in and offers him a towel. And he looks a little startled when she first comes in the bathroom, but he doesn't say anything. He doesn't chastise her for doing something that's inappropriate. He doesn't say, Ivy, like, get out of here, leave me
Yeah.
alone.
Yeah.
He just takes the towel and says thank you and asks if his clothes are ready. And she's like, sure, they'll be ready soon. But when she got the maid to do his clothes, she specifically told the maid, take your time.
Yeah. Yeah. No hurry on
Grace
these.
Grace and David walk in the Crane mansion, and Grace remembers when she fell down the stairs and lost her baby.
Oh my God.
And she also remembers seeing Sam and Ivy kissing in the hallway one Christmas Eve
Yeah.
when they were kissing under the mistletoe.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a little odd because, yeah, they were both upsetting situations that happened to her in the Crane mansion. But I felt like the way they were presented, it was almost like Passions was trying to say these are equally significant situations to Grace. Maybe I'm reading too much into that.
I think what it was is that they are reminding us that Grace has had like some bad things happen to her in this mansion, and she's about to have another bad one, right? Like she's
Mm,
about to add
yeah.
something to that list of like every time I come here something bad happens. Like,
Hmm.
so yeah, maybe they're not equally weighted, but it's still like every time I come here it's some shit, it's some bullshit.
Yeah.
And tonight is no exception. So
Yeah.
Sam is sitting there in Ivy's room, dripping wet in a robe, and Ivy offers to like rub his neck and give him like a back rub. He like denies her at first, but then she's like, I know how much you used to like it. You know how good I used to be. And then she just starts rubbing this man down. He does not pull away at
Nope.
first for a while. She's just like rubbing his neck. They're talking,
Hmm.
just like almost like, two people who are in a relationship with one another. It was very
Hmm.
natural. It seemed very natural for them.
Yeah.
But eventually he does pull away and say he needs to get home to Grace and figure out where his marriage stands. And Ivy says, "Oh, okay, but before you go, I'm not used to this wheelchair. Can you please help me into bed?"
Hmm.
Okay, here's the thing. What does not being used to the wheelchair have to do with being able to get in and out of it into the bed, right? Like the the wheelchair. Also, it's her old wheelchair. She used to use this chair. She's in a new one now, but she used this one for a while, apparently. According to the show.
Hmm.
Um, so I don't. Sam, I guess he just is gonna go along with whatever, but
Yeah.
he never questions anything. He never
Hmm.
does any bit of like investigation or just a little bit of just like discerning and thinking about the situation he's in. Well, whatever. He grabs her. He's like, "Sure, I'll help you into bed." So he like scoops her up, lays her down in the bed, and loses his balance when he lays her down. Which is what he says happens later. He said that that's what happened because I wasn't sure when they fell into the bed if it was like Ivy had like kind of pulled him down or if it was just he had fallen over. But apparently
I
he
think he
did.
legitimately
Yeah,
tripped or
he lost his
stumbled.
footing, is what he said, and he fell
Yeah.
into the bed with her. And it was hilarious because he's on top. These two people struggling. He's on top of her. She's like holding him, like ha 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 ha,
Uh-huh. They're
ha,
both laughing.
giggling so hard. I'm like, Sam, get up. Your legs work
Yeah.
just fine. Like, get your ass up.
Blame it
So
on the alcohol, Sam. The whiskey
mhm.
made him a little off balance.
Yeah, tipsy, and he tipped
Yeah.
right over into Ivy's bed. Right where she got him right where she wants him. She has him right where she
And
wants him.
he's willingly let her.
Yeah. So
He
this is
he
when
willingly let her come into the bathroom when he was naked, didn't complain about that, let her. By the way, she had the servants bring in a romantic dinner and dimmed the lights in her bedroom.
yeah.
So by the time he comes out of the bathroom in the robe, all that is set up. And he says he's not hungry, he doesn't want anything to eat, but he sits down in the chair across from her and continues talking to her about
Because his
what's going on
clothes
with
aren't
Grace.
ready.
Yeah,
Right? Because he can't leave until his clothes are ready anyway. So he's like,
yeah.
I'll sit down and chit chat with you, I guess. But yeah,
And that's when she sees he's tense and starts to rub his shoulders. And I think the only reason why he pulled away was because he was realizing I'm getting a little bit too much into this. I'm liking this too much right now.
yeah, it's possible. So David and Grace show up to the mansion, and uh they're looking for Sam, right? Grace asks where Sam is, and a maid tells her he's up he's upstairs in Ivy Crane's room getting taking a shower.
Yeah.
Okay. And so they head up to Ivy's room, and when they get there, they find Sam on top of Ivy, and the two of them like giggling, and you know, it looked very compromising. It didn't look great. It did not look
Hmm.
good. Um, and Grace and David stand there. Grace completely stunned. David knew what was coming, right? So Grace is standing there completely stunned for, I don't know, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. It
Hmm.
was a long time.
It went on for so long. If For someone who stumbled and fell on the bed, it took him an awfully long time to get back up.
Like I said, there's nothing wrong with his legs. She stood there and waited, and honestly I get why she stood there and waited, because I think she really wanted to take in like what is happening here, because if you walk in on somebody and you just see like 1 second and then you say something, then they could just be like, oh no, I fell, but I watched you, I stood here and watched you for a while,
Hmm.
and you weren't getting up. Y'all seem to be like fondling each other. um but eventually, oh, I think Ivy sees her over Sam's shoulder, and she's like laughing, she's like smiling. And Grace then kind of flees the room. She's like, I can't look at this anymore. And that's what tips Sam off to, oh my God, Grace is here. What? And so he gets up and he gives chase to Grace, right? He chases Grace down,
Hmm.
and he's yelling her name, Grace, 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 Grace. And she's like, fuck you. She doesn't say that,
Yeah.
but she just keeps moving. She's not listening to him. Fair enough, too.
Hmm.
And I'm with Grace on this. I am 100% with Grace on this, because if I saw that, there's no way you're getting me back.
Yeah,
There's no way you're getting me back.
I was on her side in that one too. Sam runs after her and says, "Didn't you hear me yelling your name?" Yes, dumbass. Of course she heard you yelling, but
Yeah.
she didn't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
She didn't want to hear more excuses.
He's like, didn't you hear me yelling your name? And she's like, yeah. And then he says, well, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? What was that? What
Yeah,
did I just witness?
yeah.
And like, I was annoyed with Sam. I was really annoyed with Sam with this line of questioning. You're not asking the
Hmm.
questions, buddy. I'm
Yeah.
asking the questions, because what are you doing here, Sam? Why were you in a bathrobe, basically naked, on top of Ivy in her bed, laughing and
Hmm.
giggling and fondling each other?
Yeah.
What were you actually doing? So, um, she Sam catches up there. She says that she came there to talk about their marriage, and to see what he was doing at the mansion, because she had called the station and they told her that he was at the mansion for non-police business. So of course, you're
Hmm.
my husband. I know Ivy's out for you. I'm coming to find you, right?
Yeah.
And so she says, I came to see what you were doing here, but I got my answer. That's that
Yeah.
you are absolutely right, Grace. I got my answer. I saw what you were doing here. I saw with my
Yeah.
own eyes.
She says, enjoy your new life with Ivy. And she tries to leave, but he stops her and he insists, I love you and only you. Let me explain what happened with Ivy. And he does. And Grace calms down Um,
Yeah, so Ivy, let's quickly say that Ivy stands back with David, right? Like they're hanging back. Ivy thinks she's won. She's like, it's over.
yeah.
Did you see that? It's
Mm-hmm.
over, right? She's happy as a clam, feeling very pleased with herself. She has won. Uh, but then Sam and Grace do manage to reconcile. So we will talk about what happens. It was interesting. I don't know how realistic it was, but it was interesting. So, um, Sam grabs Grace by the arm and because she's ready to go, she's done. He grabs her by, she literally says to him, I'll move on with my life. I hope you enjoy your life with Ivy, basically. Um, but he grabs her and doesn't let her go. He grabs her by the arm and is like, you need to hear the truth. I insist that you hear the truth from me. And he says he needs to explain to her what happened. But then he says, but before I do that, why don't you explain to me why you're so upset about finding me in bed with Ivy? What? What? Where's my womp womp? What kind of question is that, Sam? Again, you are the guilty party at this point, right? Like both of them have done some fuck shit, but at this exact moment, you can't say, "Oh, Grace, why are you so upset that you saw me in bed with Ivy? I mean, I heard you say that you love David tonight." Okay, but did you see me in bed with him naked? No, you did not. Those two things are not equal.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I have feelings for David. I've said this. We've said it. We're past that at this point. We're
Yeah.
past it at this point. And for Sam to, I get Sam being upset about it, but man, come on. We know she's explained, like, yes, I had a son with him. We used to have this life. I don't know it. I don't remember any of it, but it's stirring up these weird feelings in me. And yeah, he just wants her to lie like he does. So
Mm-hmm.
there's that. He
Yeah.
wants her to lie like he lies to
Mm-hmm.
himself about Ivy. But
Yeah.
I'm actually on Grace's side here. I really am, because what do you mean? Why am I so upset? You're my husband of 20 something years, and we have this whole life together, and we're supposed to be building, trying to fix our relationship, and you're naked in bed with Ivy. Wouldn't you be upset if you saw me in bed
He's
with
not
David?
naked. He was
He
in a
was naked.
robe, but
He was in a robe,
close.
and under his robe
Close.
was what?
Yeah.
Exactly. They took his clothes. Under his
Mm-hmm.
robe was his penis, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're naked for all intents and purposes, in my opinion, right? Like, I don't know. Um, but yeah, but after some back and forth, because Sam says, I heard you tell David that you love him. And Grace is like, well, yeah, but did you hear me tell him that I love you more and that I want to be with you? You didn't hear that portion of it, right? So then this is when he explains the whole grape juice incident and how he ended up naked in Ivy's bedroom, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the truth.
Yeah.
It's the truth. I personally, it's not goody. It's not a good enough truth for me, but it's good enough for Grace.
No.
It's good enough for
No.
Grace. Because for me, go home. We live 15 minutes away. You spilled juice on your shirt, so you got naked and got in Ivy's shower. Come home, where your
Yeah.
clothes are, where all your clean clothes are, where I did your laundry for you, where I've been
Yeah.
doing your laundry for you for the last 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go.
Yeah. Um, so Sam says he believes Grace's explanation that she loves David, but not the way she loves Sam. And Sam says, well, do you believe me in my explanation about what happened with Ivy? Grace doesn't say anything for a minute, but then she does. I think it goes to commercial, comes back. She does say she believes him.
And they make a very clear distinction with what Grace says, because he says to her, do you believe that there's nothing between me and Ivy, right? And she says, I believe that there's nothing for you with Ivy, basically, right? Like she makes a very clear distinction that she does not trust Ivy one bit, and she is
Hmm.
on to what she's on to what Ivy's
Yeah.
trying to do. And it's not hard to pick up on, Sam. It's not hard to pick up on.
Yeah. And Grace says, Yeah, she says, I believe that you don't have any feelings for Ivy.
There it is.
Sam jumps in and says, good, because it's the God's honest truth. I don't have any feelings for Ivy. You just fucking straight up lied to your wife's face.
Yeah.
You told your son maybe an hour ago that you did still have feelings for Ivy. But he is lying to her because number one, he knows she's vulnerable and it would upset her too much to hear what is actually the truth that he has feelings for both of them. And number
I don't think it would
two,
upset her that much, though. I don't think it would upset her that much. I think she would be upset, but I don't think this whole like, and we've talked about this before. This whole like
yeah,
grace is so fragile is not real. It's not rooted in anything real, right? Like it's not rooted in anything we've actually seen from Grace. Grace can handle plenty. She can handle she can handle that truth because she's grappling with that truth herself. And maybe if she actually heard that truth from Sam, it would make her really say lock in on their relationship, right? And not have any ideas of going with David, because there's a chance that Sam will leave with Ivy, right? And so I don't know. I This whole Grace is too weak bothers me. She's not too weak to know that Sam still has lingering feelings for Ivy, the woman that he was in love with and had a child with 20 something years ago.
but okay, it's obvious to us, the viewers, that that is correct. But the way they are presenting Grace in the show, they don't want you to think that. They want you to think she can't take it because that's what's being told to us by Sam and other people. And
Yeah.
then he's also not being straight with her because that is another trope in this soap opera. You and you've talked about this so many times on the show. I love you and only you. You're the only person I could ever love. It's only us forever. Blah blah blah. And that's not really the way life is, but that's the way they're presenting it on the show.
Yeah.
And therefore, if he had feelings for Ivy too, then that would make Grace question, well, maybe we're not meant to be together.
Mm,
Maybe I am not his one true love that he's supposed to be with forever.
yeah. You're right. It works both ways. It does work both ways that way, right? If if Sam does tell her the whole truth, she might take it that way as well, right? Yeah,
Hmm.
you're right. So but they, you know what? He doesn't tell her the truth, and they make up. They kiss. They head home.
Yeah.
Sam volunteers David. He's like, "Well, now that David's here, Ivy, you don't need me." And he's like, "David can help you in the bed." And so he goes home with his wife. David and Ivy have a conversation where David's like, "What are you so happy about? You lost. I told you that their love was too strong, blah, blah, blah." And Ivy's like, "No,
Yeah.
we did good work tonight, you and me,
Yeah.
David." She says,
Honey, maybe I lost the battle, but the war is still being fought.
"Yep, the
And
war's
I
not
drove a
won."
wedge between them tonight.
Yeah. She says she's planted an evil seed of doubt that will
Hmm.
drive a wedge between them, and maybe the next time they face a troubling situation, their love might not be strong enough to fight the doubt that was planted here tonight. She says
Yep.
sooner rather than later, Sam will be mine. I swear it. So she's happy. She got further here. The thing about Ivy is like she just pushes it as far as she possibly can until it comes to a stop, right? Ivy didn't have a stopping point. Ivy has no stopping point because her goal is to get Sam, marry Sam, be with Sam for the rest of her life.
Hmm.
So there's no portion of her plan where, like tonight, the plan wasn't like I'm gonna get some juice on him and then get him upstairs and kiss him. No, the plan was like, if he kisses me, great. If I can get him into bed, even better. If he stays the night, even better. Oh, and then we'll have breakfast, and then we'll have lunch, and then we'll have sex again. And then, like, she wants to just keep him with her forever in perpetuity. And as long
Hmm.
as she can stay, and you know who else is doing this? Is Beth, who's just like staying with that man as much as she possibly can, right?
Yeah.
And just following him around. And that's what Ivy's doing. Ivy has been
Yeah.
following Sam around until she had to come to a stopping point, right? Because Sam left and she couldn't
Yeah.
because she had for the course of weeks at this point, because we've been in this night forever. The course of weeks at this point, she's just been following him from place to place and making up excuses for why they have to be together. All right.
hmm
So, yeah.
And Sam, yeah, Ivy's setting up the situation here, but every time it comes to one of those stopping points where Sam could have stopped it, could have said, I'm going home, he doesn't.
Yeah. He doesn't.
Words and actions.
The only thing that stopped this was Grace.
Yeah.
Yeah, Grace showing up stopped it.
hmm
Sam and Grace go home. Sam very nearly convinces Grace to have sex with him.
hmm
And it's crazy that he's like having to beg his wife to have sex with him, but she's doing that whole like we're not truly married in the eyes of God, blah blah blah. But she gets weak because who wouldn't? That man staring you down, putting his hands all over you. I'll be weak too.
Yeah.
I get so weak in the knees. I can hardly speak. Yeah, that would be me for sure.
Plus,
But
you know where he just came from. And if he's
yeah,
not in bed with you soon, whose bed was he just in? He says it's an accident, but if I don't sleep with him soon, maybe he's gonna wind up in her bed again, and it won't be an accident that time.
I could never deal with this. I would be after seeing that. I would never be able to like get back together with Sam. I'm sorry. What are you doing
Yeah.
here?
Yeah.
I don't care how many excuses or explanations you have, how much grape, because the grape juice does not, that excuse does not fly for me. It doesn't. It does not. But anyway, like how much of an idiot do you think I am? Right?
hmm
But they do not have sex because they get a call about Charity, who is in crisis, active crisis at the hospital, and we will get to that when we get to magic. Now let's quickly talk about what's going on with TC, Eve, and Liz, and this whole situation. I'm going to blast through this because it's honestly it's pretty short. I think this was only in one episode of the week, so
Yeah.
um so TC has like happily moved this strange woman into the home where his children sleep. And he's thrilled to have her staying in Chad's old apartment above the garage, right? He asks her like, "Have you gotten a chance to get to know my wife?" And Liz very slyly, says, "Oh, yes, I feel like I've known her my entire life. I've known her my whole life." And then TC looks at Liz and is like, there's something about you that really reminds me of my wife. You really something about you. And she's like, "Oh, really? I don't know what that could be." And those of you, because at this point we don't know and uh what the Eve and Liz connection actually is, but they're obviously hinting at that these two women are related in some way, right? Because TC's looking at her and like, you kind of remind me of my wife. And so this is when Eve comes in. She's bringing Liz some towels. Of course, she doesn't want to leave Liz alone for a second with her family. And Liz tells Eve that TC thinks that they are a lot alike, and Eve's like, "I don't see it."
hmm Very matter of factly. I don't see
Yeah,
a resemblance.
yeah. She's like, I don't see it. That's crazy." And so then TC leaves, and then Eve's like, "Why are you here, Liz? Why are you doing this?" And she apologizes. She's like, I'm sorry for the things that I will say. The apology didn't feel sincere enough for me, because it was like she's just trying to get her to leave. She was like, "Liz, I'm sorry. Okay? I'm sorry for the things I did all those years ago. I'm sorry, okay?" It wasn't
hmm
I wouldn't have left either. I was like, that's not good. That's not a good enough apology. But she does.
Yeah, she was very frustrated with Liz in these scenes. Whenever they were talking alone, she was frustrated with Liz and yelling at her, and it didn't seem sincere.
No. And she tells Liz, like, I didn't mean to hurt you all those years ago. I wasn't trying to get to hurt anybody. And then leave Eve tells Liz, like, you know, you're here to spoil my life, so why don't you go ahead and do it? Like, why the theatrics, basically? And Liz tells her, well, I just like watching you squirm. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Liz is such an interesting character too, because before we see her meet Eve, she's almost a doormat, right? Like, and then so to see this side of her is like, ooh, girl,
Mm-hmm.
there's really something serious down there that you need to get checked. Oh, that sounds crazy. I'm sorry. I meant I meant you have something, you're harboring something deep inside your emotions, right? That you need to go talk to someone about.
Liz, you need to go to the
Yeah,
OBGYN.
not that you
Something's
got
not right
something
down there.
down there festering that you need to get checked out. Sorry. I'm sorry. Okay.
Actually, you could offer to do the exam because isn't she an
Eve is
OBGYN?
every doctor, y'all. This week, Eve is the pediatrician of the whole town.
Oh my God.
Jesus Christ. Oh, she's such a bad doctor. Get her, Liz. Actually, get her, because when we get to the mansion, I have a lot to say about Eve being a terrible
Yeah.
doctor, terrible
Mm-hmm.
physician. Okay, so Liz tells her she likes seeing her squirm, and Eve's like, you used to be such a kind, sensitive girl. What happened to you? And Liz says, well, I learned a lot of cruel lessons very, very young. And she says, I lost everything, so I'm gonna make sure that you lose everything and everyone in your life. And so Liz has nothing thanks to. Oh, yeah, Liz starts talking about how I have nothing thanks to you. What are you talking about? You own a resort in Bermuda.
Mm-hmm.
You own a plane. She owns an airplane that she knows how to fly, because apparently she went to pilot school. Like, you seem to be quite educated. You are doing okay. Like, sure, I know we talk about Liz having like money problems with her resort and this and that, but you own property on an island. You own property in paradise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, your life is not that bad. This really irritated me. She's like, I have nothing. But you do have things. And I think part of it was because later on, or earlier on, not later on, because it didn't happen it happened last week. She kind of alludes to the reason she doesn't have Brian, I guess, has something to do with Eve. Like, maybe I could have had a wonderful family too if you hadn't. It's like, no, it doesn't track for me. It doesn't work for me. It just
Mm-hmm.
doesn't. But yeah, she's like, I have nothing thanks to you. That really irritated me. You have plenty. You have plenty. Way more than a lot of people. Way more than Pilar has, right? Like, Pilar's house burned down.
Yeah. They
Um,
could have written that a lot better and had her say something along the lines of, I am emotionally wrecked because of what you did way back when you left. Awful stuff happened to me after. It has emotionally wrecked me. It has damaged me. I have not been able to have a solid romantic relationship.
yeah.
And she does get into some of that later, but yeah, it's just like, I have nothing. Okay,
Yeah.
Whitney Houston.
I have nothing,
I have nothing.
nothing, nothing because of you. You. Fuck you. Yeah, she hates Eve. She hates Eve.
Mhm.
But yeah, she says she has nothing. This is an R&B episode, because I did Deborah Cox, and then I did SWV, and now just did Whitney Houston. It's the R&B episode. Love it.
I do
So
too.
um, yeah, Liz says she has nothing. Eve offers to give her money, right? Because you, bitch, you just told me you don't have anything. I can pay
Yeah.
you. I'm a doctor. I make very good money, is what Eve says to her. And Liz
Uh-huh.
is like, I don't want your money. I wouldn't take your money even if I was living in a cardboard box, which she's not. She's living in a resort in paradise.
Yep.
And then she was like, I'm not for sale, although I remember you putting yourself up for sale more than once. Again, I have seen this show. I have only ever seen that Eve's past, like her being with like men and stuff, was with Julian and no one else.
Yeah.
Do you have any recollection of Eve being like this loose, promiscuous woman who was like with multiple partners? I think she was in a relationship with Julian Crane. I think that's all it was. And
Yeah,
somehow that makes me she's up for sale.
that's the only thing I remember the show telling us was her relationship with Julian. Maybe in Hidden Passions there's more about that and I'm not remembering it. I don't
Mm,
know. But yeah, we're led to believe she was young. She met Julian. He got her in this lifestyle of alcohol and drugs and all that. And then things went really bad from there.
yeah. So Eve gets fed up with Liz. And honestly, I get it. Like, bitch, this is my house.
Hmm.
So Eve gets fed up with her and is like, you know what? Get out of my house. And she like grabs her and tries to push her out. But then Whitney walks in and she sees her mom with Liz and she's like, what's going on? And Liz just says, oh, your mother was just showing me around. I'm going to be staying here. And Whitney is delighted to hear that to hear that Liz is going to be staying there. She's like, oh, this is great. It'll be nice to have another woman around the house. There's nothing but women in your house, right? Except for TC. Your house is full. She said it like there's,
I thought that was a weird line.
yeah, she said it like her house is full of boys and men. It's like, TC is outnumbered. It's just TC and the three of you ladies. So,
Right.
but yeah, she's like, oh, it'll be nice to have another woman around the house. And then they have a little conversation about how, they met at the book cafe and how Whitney liked Liz and Liz is like, I liked you too. And you seem so nice and you actually remind me a lot of myself at your age. And she gives her advice to like never give up on her dreams. At one point, Whitney asks her, like, did your dreams come true? It's like, well, bitch, I'm staying in your garage apartment. So no. Um, no, she's like, did your dreams come true? And so Liz is like, oh, that's a bad story from a bad time in my life, but basically no. And promise me that you won't ever let anyone take your dreams from you, Whitney. And Whitney's like, okay, yeah, no, great, that'll never happen to me. And yeah, they just have like a nice conversation. Then Whitney leaves to go get Liz a blanket, and this is when uh Eve again says to Liz, like, you know, I want you to leave, basically,
Hmm.
please don't ruin my life. Um, because they talk about how great Whitney is. And then also Liz like brings up Simone. She's like, you've got, lovely daughters and you have a wonderful husband. You really managed to turn it around here, Eve. And Eve says to her, yeah, and I really don't want you to hurt my daughters. Please don't hurt my daughters. And Liz says, I would never hurt your daughters. Is that what you think of me? I would never hurt your daughters. And Eve says, well, if you destroy my life, what do you think is going to happen to them? Like, if you expose me, do you think that will be harmful or helpful to them? Right. And so Liz is like, oh, I hadn't considered that. Oh, yeah, I hadn't considered that. She thinks about it for a moment, but then she's like, no, I'm still going to destroy you.
Right.
Like, no, you almost had me, Eve, but no, they deserve to know the truth, basically. And I deserve to get my revenge on you. So, um, then this conversation about Eve and her past and how she decided to hobnob with the rich and famous so that and that choice caused all of Liz's misery. Again, we have not been told exactly what it is. I vaguely remember what it is and what Liz is so upset about. And I do remember that it really was not a big deal. Um and that Eve was young too, right? Like Eve and Liz are close in age. So, what was Eve supposed to do for you? She was practically a child herself. Um, but I don't want to spoil it for anybody. It's not much of a spoiler in my opinion, but anyway, they oh my god, at one point Liz is like, all of that what you did and chose back then caused all of this, and you should have given up your drugs and sex and your precious music. God, these women, anyway, Eve starts crying. Eve's like distraught. She's like, Liz, please, you used to be a good Christian woman. You used to be such a good Christian, and Christians should be able to forgive. And Liz says, I am still a good Christian, but even Jesus threw the money changers out of the temple.
Mm-hmm.
And Liz says, and when I'm done with you, you will never be able to set foot in the house of God ever again. Yeah, Liz is pissed. This is when TC and Whitney come back, and Whitney tells her mom, like, hey, something's going on at the mansion. Theresa wants to talk to you. Eve gets the call that something's wrong with little Ethan, with Theresa's baby, so she has to leave. And so at this point, Whitney and Eve both go to the mansion. TC stays behind with Liz, and they like, I don't know, talk. What even happened between the two of them? They like talked, right? Like,
There was a scene or two where TC was showing Liz a photo album of his family. So
yeah,
they're looking at pictures of Simone and Whitney, and then TC says, Simone is a pistol and Whitney is the serious one. And I'm like, damn, TC, you actually know your kids better than I thought you did. That's a decent summary of them.
yeah, yeah. So he knows a little bit. He still doesn't know her
Mhm.
name. No, I'm joking. He does. Of course, he knows her name.
This one is Sugar Bear, and this one, pay attention to this one. This is Whitney. This is the tennis champion. She's
Yeah,
going to win a Grand Slam.
yeah. So that's it for troubled marriages. You have anything to add?
Nope.
Okay, great. So now on to our fated couples. There's no Chad and Whitney this week, which is kind of sad for me, but um we've got some Theresa, Ethan, Gwen stuff to deal with. So I don't know, what kind of music should we play for I never know. And Eric sent me like a couple of clips. I need to see if any of them will work for this, but eh, nah, no, none of the music works. So we're just gonna move on. So Theresa, Ethan, and Gwen, all of this is going on. So Theresa, remember, has had a Teresa's had a hell of a day. Okay, a lot of these people have. Theresa and Ethan both have had a hell of a day, and she comes home after finding out that Ethan is going to propose to Gwen. Right, like he has told her, and she's tried 2 times at this point, right? The first time at the hospital, she tells him, like, I found this ring. Thank you, because she thought it was his. And he explains to her, no, that ring is for Gwen. Please give it back to me. I'm done with you. Then she's like, you know what? If Chad and Whitney can get back together, I have to give this one more chance. So she goes back to the hospital and she talks to Ethan again. And again, he tells her basically no. Well, I will say that was interrupted by Gwen, who's like comes in and says, like, Theresa, you have no decency. Because at that point, when Theresa came in, Ethan was having doubts about marrying Gwen because he had had 3 separate conversations, one with Eve, one with Sheridan, and one with somebody, Chad, who all basically kind of went to bat for Theresa against Gwen, or at least told him, you need to really think this through. Don't It's not fair to Gwen for you to jump into something if you still have feelings for Theresa, giving him some solid advice, really. But Ethan's an idiot. Anyway, she goes home because she's sad. She goes to her own mansion. And what does she find when she gets home? Ethan and Gwen on her couch, drinking her champagne. And Gwen has the nerve to have an attitude when Theresa turns on the lights, because the lights were like off. Theresa turns on the lights, and she's like, oh my God, I didn't realize you were here. Of course, Gwen doesn't believe her. Rebecca comes running in like, "What are you doing here, you little Taco Bell?" Like,
Yeah, Rebecca was the main one with the attitude, in my opinion. She was the one who was really trying to kick Theresa out.
she was the enforcer. She had, but Gwen absolutely had an attitude. The entire episode, all of the episodes, Gwen had such a nasty attitude. And this is the Gwen I remember, and this is the Gwen that I really, really don't like. It is because, and we will get there, but at this point, you are at Theresa's house drinking Teresa champagne on Teresa's couch with a man that Teresa fucking loves. And you have the nerve, the gall to like look at her sideways like she's doing something wrong when she shows up to her own home. No. And then later on, when the stuff happens with the baby, she multiple times is like, yeah, Theresa is faking it. It's just that there's probably nothing wrong with that baby. To everyone who walks in, everybody who walks into the mansion, she's like, there's probably nothing wrong with that baby. This is just another scheme to get Ethan away from me. Girl, go check on the baby. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, this
I,
is the Gwen
I'm
that I
gonna
can't
step in
do.
for I'm gonna step in for Gwen for a second here because yeah, she has an attitude. I think she has a right to be suspicious of what Teresa's doing. Absolutely. But like you said, go check on it. Go see, is the baby actually sick? Instead of sitting there and saying over and over, I think she's faking. Go find out for yourself.
And
Yeah, I see
Teresa
your
would
point.
have no access to your man if you would leave her house. If he was willing to
Yeah.
leave her house.
Hmm.
Consider that, Gwen. Consider why your boyfriend won't leave his ex fiance's home. Hmm. I don't know. Just, I don't know. Whatever. So, I'm not even past the first note. Teresa comes home. She finds them on the couch. They have a. Ethan actually, she's like, oh my gosh. Teresa's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. And Ethan says to her, no, Teresa, you don't have to leave. You don't have to rush off. Don't worry about it, right?
Yep.
And she's like, no, 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 it's fine. And so she's about to leave. That's when Rebecca comes in and is like, what are you doing here, you little, and says something racist to her. And she's like, Ethan, you, I think what she does is she closes the door and then she like lays into Teresa. That way nobody hears her basically being verbally abusive to Teresa.
Right.
Um, but yeah, she closes the doors. It's like, you guys get back to what you're doing. And then she like turns to Teresa where she is squatting in Teresa's mansion and turns to Teresa and tells her, you little, expletive, you were trying to break. I know what you were up to. You're trying to stop what's going to happen, but you can't stop this train. Train's already left the station. Ethan's gonna propose to Gwen, and there's nothing you can do about it. He's righting the wrongs that he made when he left her for you the first time, and they're gonna be very happy together, and blah blah blah. Um, and at one point she's like, I could strangle you for making things so hard for my daughter. And she's like, but you need to understand that you have lost and my daughter has won. And she says, you will never marry Ethan, never, right? And so Rebecca tells her, you need to go back to your room, little girl, basically. And again, in her own mansion, these people would be evicted so damn fast. I would be calling Crane security, y'all. Like, Julian's nowhere to be seen anyway, right? Like, this, he's not going to say anything. We don't even know where he is.
But
Um,
then the second she threw them out, they would run to Julian.
and that's fine, but you will suffer the indignity of having the housekeeper's daughter kick you out. How about that? And I will continue to do it. I will do it until you decide to get your own place. Please get out. So yeah, Rebecca lays into Teresa about everything, tells her to go to her own room. Teresa tells her, listen, you don't have to worry about me anymore. And I accept, if Gwen is Ethan's choice, then I accept it. And she says, I'm going to my room, but not because you told me to, but because I need to go check on my baby. And so she goes upstairs to check on her baby. She gets there and she gets her room and the baby's not in his bassinet. And she flips the fuck out. My baby! My baby!
Yeah.
Where's my baby? Oh my God, my baby! Where's my baby? And it was insane because, baby, you have been gone for hours, right?
Yeah.
Hours. And surely you know who you left your baby with. You see there's no adult in the room, so likely the adult that you left your baby with took the baby elsewhere, which is fine, baby. Calm down. But
Yeah.
she was losing it. And oh, she's unstable. She's so unstable.
She is. And
And
she
this,
goes to the door because she's trying to figure out where her baby is. And there's Phyllis with the
yeah,
baby in her arms.
yes.
Phyllis, the maid, whose job is not to watch the baby.
So I
They
guess
are
Phyllis is
billionaires. Where are the nannies? I don't understand. This is another thing. I'm like, this sim does not need to be here. We need nanny sim to
yeah,
come in
it's
and
weird that
watch
they
the
don't have like
baby.
it's weird that they don't have like a dedicated nanny. It's like
Yeah.
the maids are just watching this child, right? And like you said,
Yeah.
that's not their job. It's not their job to
No.
watch your baby. But I guess it is now. And so, yeah, Phyllis comes back with the baby. She's like, oh, I just took him out for a walk. He was very fussy. He feels very warm to me. She hands him to Theresa. Teresa's like, he's burning up. Why didn't you call me? And all I could think was, well, because she's not a child care worker. Like she's a
Yeah.
maid. And and yes, even if I'm a maid and I feel like the kid feels like maybe warm, I'll check their temperature. But, you know, maybe she didn't know because that's not her job. It's not her job to
Hmm.
know. Um, but Teresa's frantic. She's like, he's so hot. She tells them to call Dr. Russell. The baby has a fever of 105. These are the types of temperatures that cook your brain, right?
Hmm.
Like the uh, the
You
baby
could
has a
have
temperature.
irreparable brain damage. You could be in a coma or dying with that temperature.
And instead of calling 911, because you are in an emergent state at this point, right? Instead of calling 911, going to the hospital yourself, she says, "Oh no, call Dr. Russell." Okay, fine. So they call Dr. Russell. That's when Eve gets the call and she goes out to the mansion. So uh when Eve shows up, Theresa tells her the baby has a fever of 105. And Eve tells her, do you have any I can't even say it, ibuprofen? You need some pediatric ibuprofen and a warm bath. The baby has a fever of 105. And Eve is like, yeah, do you have any pediatric ibuprofen? Girl, you knew you were coming over here to check on a baby. Why didn't you bring any with you? First of all, you knew he had a fever, but whatever. And so she's like, oh, let me just examine him. And Theresa goes to get the pediatric ibuprofen to bring down the baby's fever. And she's like, a lukewarm bath will help bring down his fever. But then the baby starts having fucking seizures, convulsing. The baby is convulsing and having seizures. Eve takes one look at the baby. Teresa's like, oh my God, something's wrong with him. What's wrong, Dr. Russell? Eve takes one look at him. She's like, oh, he's having seizures. Nothing we can do until he stops convulsing. Nothing you can do. Nothing you can do. Nothing you can do. You could call 911, girl. You could call an ambulance. This baby it's a baby, a newborn baby with a fever of 105 who is now having seizures, probably because his brain is fucking cooking inside of his skull, right? He's having seizures and convulsing. And there's nothing we can do until he stops convulsing. And she says, we just have to wait for the medicine to kick in. The I can't say it. The ibuprofen. You know why I can't say it? I don't take ibuprofen because it makes me violently ill. Violently ill. Like I can't. It upsets my stomach in the most horrendous ways. So I don't take it. But yeah, she says all we can do is wait for the medicine to kick in. The over the counter fucking Equate from Walmart. All we can do is
Hmm.
wait for it to kick in. She's a
And the
doctor.
lukewarm bath.
In a lukewarm bath. This is the best she can do. not
Yeah.
take the baby to the hospital, not call the EMT ambulance, because at least if you call the ambulance, yeah, you can start trying to do what you can here. You call the ambulance, then now you have medical equipment at your disposal, and maybe there's something that they can do, and and then you get the baby to the hospital, and then there's even more medical equipment at your disposal and more medicines, things that maybe would stop a baby from having a seizure. Right? I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but Eve is. Allegedly. Allegedly. God, she's the
Allegedly.
worst. She is the worst doctor in the world, in the history of television. She is the worst doctor. I cannot think of a worse doctor. No,
It's awful.
she's the worst. Sorry, I know I just have like gone on a like tangent about how bad she is, but good God. So, she says they have to just wait for the medicine to kick in while this poor baby is dying. The baby is dying. I want to make it clear, this baby is dying. And Eve says,
Her baby's gone.
oh my God. Yep. So, this is when like the Sam and Ivy stuff happens, and they go do the wheelchair and stuff. Ethan doesn't know anything about what's going on with the baby upstairs, because Theresa specifically said don't bother Ethan, because I think Phyllis was like, do you want me to go get Ethan? And Theresa, I want to put that out there, Theresa specifically told her, don't bother Ethan, I don't want to bother him, right?
Yeah. Why?
Yeah.
Why are you going to call Ethan anyway? He's a lawyer.
And a bad one at that.
I didn't get training on how to take care of babies with fevers when I went to law school.
And a bad one at that. I think Phyllis's line of thinking was that Ethan would be a comfort to Theresa. That's the only thing.
Yeah, probably, because she is on a 12 right now through most of these episodes.
Yeah. That's the only thing that I can think, because it doesn't make any sense to like, do you want me to go get Ethan for what? Yeah, he's not a doctor.
Maybe a nice way of saying, calm the fuck down. You need to calm down right now.
But you know what? What I will say for Theresa, yes, she was like frantic, but her baby was fucked up. Like, her baby is in horrible shape, and the doctor she has called is doing nothing. Oh, good God. True. So yeah, this is at this point, Ethan and Gwen don't have any clue of what's going on upstairs with the baby. So when Ivy and Sam come and do the whole wheelchair thing, this is when Ethan and Sam have that whole conversation. And we already kind of talked about what Sam told him, so I'm not even going to get into that. And so back in the living room, after he has that conversation with Sam, which again, he keeps having these different conversations with people, which are putting these seeds of doubt in his head about proposing to Gwen. And so back in the living room, Ethan tells Gwen that he's been thinking, I've been thinking a lot about love and marriage, and you know what? The time is now. And he tells her about his talks with his two dads. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I said he tells her about the talks he had with his two dads, right? He had one conversation with Julian where Julian told him not to give up on the real love. Whoever his love is, that's who he needs to pursue. And Sam told him basically the same thing. And then he kind of hints at proposing to her, right? And I've been thinking a lot about that, and I really love you, Gwen. And so it seems like maybe he's like, even though all of these other people have been kind of giving him messages like, hey, maybe you should slow your roll, or maybe you shouldn't propose to Gwen right now, maybe you should really work through your feelings. Seems like he was going to ignore all of that and just go ahead and pop the question anyway, because he had made up his mind, which is fair enough, but Phyllis comes in, and I do think this was truly, I don't know what Phyllis was thinking here. Phyllis comes rushing in and it's like, I'm sorry, I have to take this. And she takes the ice bucket that has the champagne in it. And they're like, whoa, Phyllis, we weren't done with that. And she was like, well, the baby needs it. Wait, what? And like the baby is very ill and running a very high fever, and the baby needs this specific ice. You couldn't get the baby some new ice from the freezer.
Hmm.
These people are billionaires. Billionaires. They're rationing the ice, right?
Maybe the living room was closer and she set that up earlier and she was thinking about that's the explanation I can come up with. And I think I'm giving Passions too much credit for
Too
that.
much credit. Because I was like, what the hell is this? But part of me is like, maybe Phyllis really, really wanted Ethan. Because Phyllis is Team Theresa all the way, right?
Yeah.
So part of me feels like Phyllis wanted to break this up right now, right?
Phyllis is the queen of ruining romantic moments because
She,
remember, she was the one who walked in on Ivy and Sam when they were kissing
hmm
last time I was on the show. And
yeah. She
yeah,
has come in a few different times, but yes, she and kind of like thrown cold water on people's hot moments. But
yeah.
yeah, she does need
And
some
she
guys.
did remember also when she barged in on Sam and Grace and David and Ivy when they were talking the night of the green smoke, and she started
Yeah.
stumbling over herself, apologizing to Sam for
Yeah.
interrupting him and Ivy kissing. So maybe she's just not that smart.
You know what? She's like Tabitha, but unconsciously, right? Subconscious, she doesn't want anybody to find love, and she wants to destroy relationships and harmony. But no,
Yeah.
I really do think she's just like hardcore Team Teresa in this moment. Like, and she knew that Ethan would want to know about the what's going on with the baby and would want to be there to support Teresa. That's what I've chosen to believe. The show did not give that to me in any
Hmm.
capacity. I just have chosen to uh say that that's Phyllis's reasoning for this because it's the only thing that I'm filling in gaps basically because bitch, what do you mean you need this ice from this ice but this dirty ass ice from this ice bucket for the baby?
Yeah.
Um and so Ethan is very upset by the news that the baby is sick and he's like, why didn't anyone tell me? And Phyllis says, well, Teresa didn't want to bother you. And then he runs off to go check on what's going on with the baby. And then Gwen and Rebecca have a conversation. Of course, Rebecca comes in angry with Teresa, and they're like, oh, that baby's probably not even sick. And this is just some trick. And Gwen says that, she says, I'm just about ready to give up. But Rebecca tells her, never give up. Never say that, honey. But Gwen does say, you know what? He keeps running to Teresa.
Hmm.
I'm just about at the end of my rope. I'm about ready to give up. And Rebecca tells her, no, we never give up. Goonies never say die. And so, um, this is when Rebecca tries to enlist Ivy's help, but Ivy's too busy with Sam. So nothing comes of that. And then Ethan goes upstairs to help Eve in this emergency situation. And he's like, is there anything I can do? And she's like, well, yes. Is there any medical equipment around here? You know where they have medical equipment, Eve? The
The hospital.
hospital.
Hmm.
The hospital. Do you have any medical equipment around here? Are you serious? Are you still on drugs, Eve? I think Eve must still be on drugs.
I took issue with the whole situation because by this time you have Eve, Teresa, Ethan, Phyllis, and Whitney all in the baby's room. They didn't drag Ethan up there, but they got him up there. He is interrupting the medical professional when she's trying to help the baby, badly help him, but she's trying to help the baby. He's interrupting her asking, is there anything I can do? No, no,
No,
there is
no.
nothing you can do. Go stand outside of the room because there are already a lot of people in this room. They're getting in the way. He is there to make one, he doesn't even go to get the emergency medical equipment himself. He is
Yeah,
there to make one phone call to ask them to bring the equipment up to the room.
yeah. So ridiculous, so ridiculous. And then he starts giving the baby the bath, right? Like he's like putting water over the baby and trying to cool the baby down and keep the baby's fever, get the baby's fever down. Now, little Ethan's fever is not coming down. It will not break. Teresa's, my baby, oh my God, like the entire time. And Eve says to Ethan, like kind of quietly to Ethan, because he's like, tell me truthfully, Doc, is this baby gonna make it? Like, is everything okay here? And she's like, it's not looking good, Ethan. The baby could die, or he could have like horrible brain damage for the rest of his life, irreparable damage. This could do irreparable damage, and this could ruin his life. But immediately after she says that, like truly the very next scene, the baby's fever is broken. He's fine. The fever is going down. He's gonna be fine. They lay him in a bassinet. Everybody's like, oh yay, oh he's gonna be fine. Theresa like picks him up and dotes on her baby, and Ethan and Whitney watch on, and everybody's happy. Again, this baby had a fever of 105 and was having seizures. Take him to the hospital. Take him to the, oh my God. And everybody in this room's like, oh, he's gonna be fine. He's gonna be fine. And then Theresa is like, oh, thank you, Dr. Russell, blah, blah, blah. Whitney has a conversation with Ethan where she's like, yeah, Theresa's capacity for love is so huge, isn't it? And she says, she just reminds him like what she did for him. She's like, she even tried to kill herself for you. Like, no, she threw herself down that elevator shaft to save you. You should know better than anyone what Theresa's capacity for love is, right? And so, yeah, she loves her baby so much, but she also loves you just as much as she loves that baby. Well, then the baby seems out of danger, right? They put the baby down in the bassinet. Everybody's happy, gorgeous, perfect. And then Theresa's like, something's not right. Now, this was crazy. Theresa says, something's not right. I can feel it. Something's not right with my baby. Something's wrong. Dr. Russell, something's not right with my baby. Something's not right. And so Eve comes in. It's like, what's wrong? Everybody's looking at Theresa like she's crazy, right? Mm-hmm. They're looking at the baby
like, sleeping, Theresa.
He's sleeping. Yeah, he's fine. Eve herself looks at the baby's like, what's wrong? He's fine. I don't see anything wrong with him. And then she looks a little bit closer and he's like, the baby's not breathing. Oh my God. Are you kidding me? Then she can't find a pulse. This baby's heart has stopped. The baby's heart has stopped. Sorry for yelling, but the baby's heart has stopped. The baby's not breathing. Everybody's like, oh yeah, he looks fine. He looks fine. The baby is dead. Like, oh my God. So Eve rushes in. She starts like doing baby CPR on the baby, you know. Again, no one calls 911.
It's so ridiculous.
It really is. This baby is dying, right? Like we're trying to bring him back to life at this point, right?
And Theresa does the only thing that the people in Harmony can do to bring people back. They pray.
Of course.
Theresa prays.
She prays and she's like bargaining with God. But I also want to say that they didn't call 911, but you know who Eve did call? Some random nurse to bring her some medicine. A random nurse shows up like, yeah, I have this medicine for Dr. Russell. Where can you tell me where Theresa's room is? Blah, blah, blah. And so the nurse shows up with the drugs that Eve had asked her to bring. Again, instead of calling the nurse, you could have called 911. You could have called for an ambulance. Mm-hmm. So she shows up with some drugs, and Eve says she's going to give the baby some epinephrine, which isn't that an EpiPen? Isn't epinephrine? And I meant to look that up.
I think so.
We got on here. Does that restart your heart?
Because I don't know. I don't know a lot about it.
Because epinephrine, also known as oh no, it's not. Epinephrine is not the same. So what's in an EpiPen? Now I'm trying to figure out what's in an EpiPen.
Oh yeah, that's right. I'm flashing back to my days of watching Grey's Anatomy, and they would say push epi, if someone's heart had stopped.
Oh, it is EpiPens are epinephrine too. So okay,
interesting.
Well, you learn something new every day. Anyway, she gives the baby one shot one shot of adrenaline. Adrenaline. That's for my my old school drag race fans, if you if you know that song by RuPaul. So anyway, she gives the baby a shot of epinephrine to try to get his heart beating again. It does not work. Doesn't work. This baby is dead. All right. So what's going on here? The baby is, I would say, clinging to life, but he's dead. His heart has stopped beating. He's not breathing. They're doing CPR on him, and a half hour passes. They've been doing CPR on this baby for a half hour. And yeah, I've watched Grey's Anatomy too, and I distinctly remember them talking about how you, at a certain point, you have to stop doing that because it's like there's no hope, right? But they just, I guess that is keeping the blood flowing for the baby, right?
Yeah, and once your heart has stopped beating for that long, or once you've been brain dead for that long, even if you do miraculously come back somehow, you're not going to be the same. You're going to have very significant medical problems.
Yeah. So while this is going on, Pilar shows up. She didn't know anything about this, but she does show up. And Theresa is bargaining with God, right, for her baby's life. And she promises to leave Ethan alone to be with Gwen if that's what he wants. And I love that they wrote it that way. And what I really loved is that I clocked it immediately, right? I clocked it immediately. I was like, she said, if that's what he wants. And
Yeah.
she doesn't believe that is what he wants. So she wrote herself a little loophole, right? In her bargain with
She
God.
did that before. I don't remember exactly what the circumstances were, but I know she made some half-assed promise. I'm going to give Ethan up, except if
Right.
blah 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 happens.
Unless,
I wish I remembered the specifics.
yeah, I don't remember 100%. Well, I do remember her saying, like, agreeing. I do remember her agreeing to give up Ethan. I can't remember what
Yeah.
it was or why. Oh well. But I'm sure it'll come to me at some point. But yes, she has written herself a little loophole saying that, I promise to leave Ethan alone if Gwen is what he really wants. But she doesn't believe Gwen is what he wants. So anyway, a half hour passes. Eve is unable to bring this baby back to life. She says, "I'm so sorry, Theresa." They call it, basically. And Teresa's like, oh, crying, my baby's gone. My baby's gone. And but then the baby wakes up, cooing, perfectly fine. And Dr. Russell says, "Oh, it must be a delayed reaction to the epinephrine." And Theresa says to Pilar, "No, I'm sure this was because of my bargain with God. This was because of my prayer, Mama. Mama, my prayer worked, and I'm going to keep my promise. I'm going to keep my promise to God. God gave me my baby back, so I will leave Ethan alone if he wants to marry Gwen. Fine, I won't interfere. I'm going to keep my word to God." Yep, she is. She is, like, in her head, in her own little way. In her own little way, she thinks that is being honest. And so Eve then says, "Oh, the baby's fine. It's a miracle. It's amazing. He's perfect. His fever's all the way down. He's breathing on his own. He's fine. I just want you to bring him in for a follow-up
checkup.
tomorrow. Bring him in for a follow. Take this baby to the hospital right the fuck now. This baby needs to be admitted to the hospital and observed overnight. His heart stopped. If nothing else, the fact that you were doing compressions on his little chest for 30 minutes is like enough damage for that you should be like keeping an eye on him. His heart stopped. He had a fever of 105. He wasn't breathing for half an hour on his own.
He had seizures.
He had seizures. Thank you. I left that part out. Convulsions. Like, this baby is in crisis and needs to get some real care. Eve is truly the worst possible physician. She is a terrible, terrible doctor. Truly, truly the worst. And I think this is the most egregious. She has done a lot of stuff where I'm like, God, she's a bad doctor. But this is the worst. This really
Mhm.
takes the tomato soup cake. It really does. I
Yeah, this was
mean,
awful.
the baby was dead for 30 minutes. And I can laugh about it because the baby came back, but like, what is wrong with Eve Russell? They need to reevaluate. Like, I don't know. Did she really take the what's the test that doctors have to take? The GMAT? No, not the GMAT. Whatever. I don't know.
Are you
Whatever.
talking about the boards once they finish
No,
their
like
residency or
before they
whatever?
even get into medical school. What's the MCAT? They have to take the MCAT
MCAT, yeah.
to get into medical school. I don't believe she passed that. I don't think she's even made it that far. Like, she's not. You have you ever seen Catch Me If You Can
I think so years ago.
with Leonardo DiCaprio, and it was about that man Frank something. I can't remember his last name,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
but he basically was was like a con artist, and he like passed the bar. He passed the Louisiana bar, but he had never been to like law school. He wasn't a real lawyer or anything, but he passed the bar and was like pretending to be a lawyer. That's what I feel about Eve, right? Like she somehow has tricked everyone into believing she's a great doctor or a
Uh-huh.
doctor at all. And I don't think she actually has those credentials. I don't. I need to see a real degree. I know
Yeah.
I need to see some transcripts. Actually, I need to see your medical school transcripts because I don't believe you
Hmm.
went. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't.
And I
So
want to hear where you went for your residency. I want to see your performance evaluations from residency. I want to see your scores on the boards when you go to take your boards before you're an official doctor.
mm-hmm. Because I don't believe it. I don't.
Hmm.
I do not believe it. Um, Teresa asks, Teresa asks Eve, she's like, can Whitney stay? Like they're children. You are a grown woman with a baby, and so is Whitney. Of course she can stay. And but Eve is like, oh, I don't see why not. Just, don't stay up too late. Mind you, Whitney has a tournament in the morning. I'm not saying that the
Oh
tournament should
boy.
trump this whole thing that's been going on with the baby, but just a reminder, we have been told that Whitney has a tournament in the morning, and I'm wondering if that's going to actually come up again. And they made a big deal
Mm.
about it. Like it's the same tournament that her dad wasn't able to play in because he had that accident that he blames Julian for. So they made a big deal about it. So of course I'm going to remember it, and I'm wondering if that's going to come up again. But anyway, she asks if Theresa can stay, and Whitney stays there with her. And Eve tells Whitney, "I'm not going to stand in Ethan's way if he wants to marry Gwen. If he wants to marry Gwen, I'm not going to stand in his way." And Whitney is like, great, it was all worth it. Because Teresa's like sad, and I'm blowing through a few things. Teresa's very sad. She's happy and sad at the same time. They have this conversation where Teresa's like, I can't believe I can be so happy and also so sad at once. Because I'm happy that my baby didn't die, but I'm sad that I'm gonna lose Ethan forever. And Whitney tells her, but it was all worth it. In the end, you get little Ethan's life in exchange for you giving up on Ethan. And Teresa's like, well, that's not exactly what I said. Like, I didn't say I was going to give up on Ethan. And she kind of formulates this idea, this thought in her head that if Ethan doesn't propose to Gwen tonight, of all nights, if he doesn't propose to Gwen tonight, then that's a sign that he doesn't want to marry her at all.
Yeah.
Just and like let's run down the events of this day. Ethan went to clean out his office. Oh, yep, that's right. We're still in that same day where he was supposed to be cleaning out his old office, and it turned out to be Teresa's office. And then he fell down an elevator shaft, got electrocuted, almost died, came back to life, and then watched a baby die, gave a baby CPR for 30 minutes. Maybe he's not in the mood to propose.
Hmm.
I don't know. Maybe you don't want a memory like that. You know what I mean? Like this is a day full of pretty bad, nasty memories. Maybe you don't want to equate like the day that you propose with this day where you almost died and little Ethan almost died, and this day has bad juju. The day has bad juju. So the fact that she's like, if he doesn't propose to her tonight, that means he doesn't want to marry her at all. It's like, well, maybe it's just not a good night.
Yeah.
But Gwen also kind of feels that way too, like he needs to propose to her tonight. And I don't get this thinking from either of these women. I don't. This is a terrible day. I wouldn't want a proposal on this day. What are you thinking? What are you thinking? So anyway, she says if he doesn't propose to her tonight, then maybe he doesn't want to. They're really playing semantics here, you know. And then Theresa's like looking at pictures of Ethan, and Whitney tells her to stop torturing herself and that she needs to focus on the blessings that she has. And Theresa says, I know that even if it's futile to keep wishing for the impossible, I can't help dreaming of having that life with Ethan that I've dreamed about since I was a little girl. And so she says when it comes down to it, she truly doesn't think that Ethan will be able to propose to Gwen, and at the last second he's going to realize that he loves her and wants to spend the rest of his life with her and no one else. And she's like, he's going to ask me to be his wife. I just know it. And so this is not important, but Ethan comes back downstairs, and before he talks to Gwen, he calls Luis to tell him what was going on with the baby. So just keep that in mind, everybody, for when we get to the Shui stuff. So at one point, sometimes I have a little miscellaneous notes that I don't know where to put them, but I already talked about how Gwen, everybody she talked to in the mansion, she was like, yeah, to the baby, Theresa said something's wrong with the baby, but I don't know how true that is, you know. And so she says it to Sheridan at one point. She says that she thinks that this whole thing is just another scam, and that she's just trying to steal Ethan from her again. But then she's like, but Ethan loves me. He does. He loves me. He's gonna marry me. Who are you trying to convince? It was very indicative of like Antonio, right? Like it was reminiscent of Antonio constantly being like, Sheridan loves me, and no one else. And so Gwen is doing that now too. Ethan loves me and he doesn't love her. He loves me and he wants to marry me.
Speaking of Antonio, we have a little bit of him getting mixed up in this situation too,
I did leave him out.
because I completely understand. He and Sheridan come over to the mansion because they were looking for Eve. How they knew Eve was at the mansion is another issue I have with the continuity in this story. But anyway, Antonio is up there seeing some of the stuff going on with the baby. And once the baby's fever goes down and they're excited about that, Antonio says, of course, he's strong and he's a fighter. He is my nephew after all.
You don't even know these people. I hate him.
Self-centered
Yeah,
asshole. He's
right.
always got to make it about himself.
Exactly. He made that all about himself, and he is such a piece of garbage, human garbage. I don't like him, but he does like have like one of his little brain freezes while they're up there, which
Of
you know
course.
what? Was the baby not dying enough to make him drop dead? Right? Is that not shocking? That's
Yeah.
so incredibly shocking to stand there and watch a baby die.
Yeah.
And
Your
he was
nephew
fine.
is dying.
He
Your
was
nephew's heart
fine.
stopped beating.
He was fine. And which is why I know they can tell him the truth and he will be fine.
Hmm.
But anyway, Ethan eventually returns to Gwen, and she very snidely remarks, saying, like, was there really anything wrong with the baby? And Ethan's like, yeah, he almost died. It was really hard. It was like really scary. He's clearly shaken up about it too. And then he's clearly shaken up. He just told them, yeah, little Ethan almost died. It was really scary. And Sheridan pulls Gwen to the side and is like, now's a perfect time to take Ethan for a walk and give him the opportunity to propose. Again, why is that on y'all's mind at this point? He just told you that Theresa's baby almost died. Maybe he's not in the, and he was there to witness it. Maybe he's not in the mood. Why would, I don't know. It's just not the most romantic thing
Yeah.
I just
To be
watched the
fair to
baby die.
Gwen, to be fair to Gwen, she did apologize once she realized the baby actually did have something very seriously wrong with him. And I think she apologized to Ethan and she also told Sheridan she was sorry that she acted
I
that
only,
way.
I mean, she says she feels bad for not believing Theresa about the baby. Yeah, so yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, and yeah, of course she should feel, some type of way about that. That was kind of horrible. And to what you said earlier, to your point earlier, I don't fault Gwen for having some sort of misgivings and mistrust surrounding Theresa and thinking like this might be some sort of plot, you know. But it's a nasty nasty thought to have without doing any kind of investigation, right? And without going and checking yourself and finding out what's
Hmm.
going on. Like, go see for yourself. If you really are like, oh, it's probably just a ploy, go see for yourself. Everybody else is up there, why not you?
Exactly.
There was a million people in that room. And so, at the very least, she could just go ask Ethan, like, even if she doesn't want to intrude, because I understand it's Theresa's baby, it's Theresa's room, right? She could just like, hey, Ethan, what's going on, and he could tell her. But no, she decided to just stay downstairs and stew in her nastiness. But again, I get why she has some mistrust of Theresa, and that she thinks maybe Theresa would sink so low to use her baby to and say her baby is sick, right? To get Ethan away from. But it was not Theresa that did that. I want to make clear Theresa had actually told Phyllis not to bother Ethan, right?
Hmm.
So, and of course Gwen doesn't know that, but it, um, anyway, they go for a walk to the solarium. They go into the solarium. They sit down. Gwen tells him, I feel bad for not believing Theresa about the baby. And she says, but now that the emergency is over, we can pick up where we left off. You were trying to, you wanted to ask me something, Ethan? There was something you told me you wanted to ask me. Just, needling him to try to propose, right? To get him to propose to her. And Ethan is hesitant about proposing. And it would be very easy for me to say he's having doubts about Gwen, but sincerely, I'm actually gonna give it a little bit. I'm gonna expand on it a little bit more than that. Yes, I do think he has his doubts about Gwen, but in my opinion, this is really more about this day has fucking sucked. This is not the way I want to propose to Gwen, right? Or anybody. This isn't, I don't know. So he's hesitant about it. She keeps trying to push him to the point. And then he tells her, there is something I want to talk to you about. And he says, I want you to be happy, right, Gwen? Um, and he says we should call it a night and get a fresh start in the morning. So she's very crestfallen about this, very disappointed because she thought that she was going to get proposed to. And so she's like, okay, well, I'm not really in the mood for champagne anymore. So I'm gonna go get us a nightcap. And so she goes off. The minute she leaves the room, what's the first thing out of Ethan's mouth? Do you remember?
I
The
don't.
the moment she left the room, Ethan gets up and goes, Theresa. That's it. He doesn't say anything else. He just goes, Theresa. Come on. Come on, y'all. Like, Ethan, I know we argue and go back and forth about Ethan and Gwen and Theresa and Ethan, and he loves Gwen. No, he loves Theresa. This man wants Theresa. He
Yeah.
just can't get over the fact that she had lied to him, which is fair enough. But I really I hate it for Gwen. I hate it for her. I hate this for her. I do.
Hmm.
Even though she's not my favorite character, everybody knows that. I hate this for her. This man is not in love with her. I'm sorry. I don't believe it. I do not believe. I think he loves her. I think he loves her. I don't think he's in love with her. I don't think he wants to marry her. Yeah, I don't know. I don't. He gets up and he's just like, Theresa. That's it. They weren't even having the conversation about Theresa. And so Um, he says that, and then Theresa and Whitney come downstairs, and Whitney and notices the champagne. It's like it looks like they've been down here celebrating, right? And so Whitney's like, it seems that he has proposed to Gwen. And Whitney counsels Theresa to give her congratulations. She's like, what a mature person would do is that they would congratulate the couple. And Teresa's like, I don't know. I don't know if I can do that. Which, yeah, she doesn't owe them a congratulations. It's fake as fuck anyway. She doesn't want to congratulate them. She doesn't owe them that. And honestly, I don't know how that makes her more mature than just like saying it is what it is and accepting it, right? You can accept it without having to be like, congratulations, I'm so happy for you. No, you're not. That's a lie. You're not happy for them and you don't want to congratulate them. But Theresa says, I don't know if I can. What if Gwen comes down here and starts to gloat? And Whitney's like, so what if she does? Show her what you're made of and be gracious and then cry in your room later. Whitney, baby, what kind
Whitney was annoying through some of this. She took it too far, very sanctimonious, like, oh, Theresa, now that you made this promise to God, you have to keep it, and you can't want Ethan back anymore, and you need to go and congratulate them. That all got on my nerves.
Well, Whitney didn't keep her promise to God. I remember her promise to God about Simone and Chad, and
Mm-hmm.
when Simone was in the hospital, she got on
Yep.
over that. We were applauding her for it, to be honest, because it was like, baby, that's not real. It wasn't real.
Yeah.
But anyway, Theresa does go in to talk to Ethan, and she says to him, Ethan, I gather you have some big news for me, and she's trying to take it on the chin. And that's where we ended with them this week. You have anything to add to that?
Just that right after Theresa said that to Ethan, Gwen walks back in and she's holding a glass of champagne, or she's holding
The
something.
drinks,
And
yeah.
Theresa could see on her finger that, oh, actually, he hasn't proposed.
Oh, I didn't notice that. Thank you for catching that. I didn't catch it. I was watching on my phone, so it was a little small. Um, Thank you. That's a lovely detail. Love that. So that's it for the fated couples, and now we're going to go on to our magic storyline. Magic. Yeah. It's Halloween. It only matters in this storyline.
It matters a little bit in Shawise.
The
It's like
tiniest bit.
the setting for Shawise for
Yeah.
part of it.
Yeah, the tiniest bit.
Yeah.
So let's I want to say this. I'm going to speed run this. I'm gonna speed run this. I'm gonna speed run Shawise. We can stop. I don't mind stopping and talking about stuff, but I am gonna pick up the pace here. So it's Halloween. Tabitha misses Timmy. They used to have so much fun on Halloween, right? And cracked Connie comes down and tries to get her to go out and cause pain. It's our biggest night of the year. We should be out causing pain and ruining lives. And Tabitha says, I've had enough pain of my own to last a lifetime. Tabitha's in a lot of pain. I feel for her. I really do. And
Yeah.
then Connie tells her that she has an evil plan, but she needs Tabitha's help to do it. And turns out she wants Tabitha to help her make her the man of her dreams. And she pulls out like this like Playgirl hunk like magazine. Like, I want you to make me a man. Tabitha
She needs her
refuses.
own Sam Bennett, essentially.
Basically. Tabitha refuses and is like, I'm not helping you do that. Leave me alone. Get away. Get out of here. And so Connie's like, fine. And she goes off and she decides to do it herself. So she puts a bunch of doll parts, because I guess Tabitha just keeps a ton of spare doll parts around in her house. She puts a bunch of doll parts in a box, and she takes it down to the basement, where this is the first time we're actually seeing inside of the basement. And it's interesting because they set it up kind of like Dr. Frankenstein's like laboratory, right? And so we're not seeing like the demons or, there's no red light but she goes into the basement.
Hmm.
And it's set up like Frankenstein's lab. And she does her own little Dr. Frankenstein thing and makes her own little monster. And this monster's name is Cecil. Cecil. And when he comes to life, it's alive. When he comes to life, she sees him and she's like, "Oh, you're even better than I could have ever dreamt." She finds him quite hunky, but he's not like what we would think of as a hunk. It definitely doesn't fit the picture that she was holding up when she showed to
Hmm.
Tabitha that to,
This
to
is a
model her man on.
this is a throwback to Simone a long time ago when she saw Chad,
Mm-hmm.
because Connie says, "Wow,
Yeah.
double wow,"
Yeah. It is. She saw his face and
and
wow.
wow.
But then she took a vow. Yeah, she saw I wrote that in my notes. So yeah, I was very excited. I was like, "Oh," she saw him and said, "Wow." So yeah, she and Cecil link up to do some Halloween mischief. And they go out in a Richard Nixon mask and a Martha Stewart mask. And Tabitha like starts chasing them around, trying to catch up with them, but they have a run in with Edna, Beth's mom, Edna Wallace, and they torment her. They like spray her. They like spray her with shaving cream. They like pelt her with eggs. They like do toilet paper her around like a mummy. And I half thought they were gonna knock her over. I'm not gonna lie. I thought they
Yeah,
were
me
about to
too.
knock her over, but they did not go that far. Even Cecil and Connie have their limits. I can't say the same about Beth.
Hmm.
but they weren't willing to like knock the lady down. And
Edna
so
wasn't phased. She's like, "I've seen worse with Beth."
right. Well, but so they torment her and she's like screaming, of course. She's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, get away from me. Oh, help, help, help." Right.
Yeah.
And nobody comes to her aid. And then
Yeah, I said she wasn't phased, but actually she was, but I still think that she
she's had worse
would
treatment
rather
from
be
Beth
with the dolls than with Beth.
for sure. And so we'll catch up with what happens with her after that. But Tabitha finds her immediately after that happens, and she's like, "Did you see Martha Stewart and Nixon come this way?" And she's like, "Yeah, they went that way, basically, right?" And so Tabitha's just chasing them around this whole time, right? So when you talk about Kay and Simone, who are at the book cafe, this was one of those moments where it's like, how did we get here? How did we get here? Because the
Hmm.
last time I saw them, I don't know, I was just like, okay. But because the last time I saw them, Simone had left with Chad. That's why I was so confused about this. Simone had gone to the studio with Chad, and Kay was like kind of left her own devices. And so I didn't understand how we managed to just a few moments later, really, get to the book cafe
Hmm.
together, trying to figure out a way to tell Charity that Kay and Miguel have slept together. So they're kind of trying to put their brains together, their two little brains together, to try to figure out how can we tell Charity. Really, it's Kay trying to figure it out, and Simone kind of knocking down all of her ideas. Um, and so Simone is very resistant to helping Kay with this, but Kay effectively guilts her, saying, "I helped you with Chad, so you have to help me with this." And so, um, Kay says she'll dump him. Oh, yes, Kay thinks if she tells Charity the truth, then Charity will dump Miguel because he kept the truth from her, right? She's like,
Hmm.
it's not the sex that's the problem, it's the lie, which is, solid logic coming from Kay, especially
Hmm.
because
It's
I feel
very
the same way.
important to her that she be able to tell tell Charity what happened with Miguel before he tells Charity. Because
Mm-hmm.
like you said, the lie is what's important. She thinks Charity could forgive Miguel and Miguel could make the excuse that something evil made him sleep with Kay. But if Charity realizes Miguel is lying to her about it, that is what is going to make Charity never want to have anything to do with him again.
Yep, she says they will have lost their trust, and you can't have a relationship without trust. Listen,
Hmm.
sounding like her half brothers. That's what Ethan says. Can't have a relationship without trust. Anyway, Connie and Cecil overhear this conversation in the book cafe, and they decide to go to the hospital to tell Charity the truth. And Kay comes up with her own little plan to make Charity believe that she, is coming clean with her because she feels so guilty, and because she cares so much about Charity and she just needs her to know the truth. And she says that she has to make Charity believe that she cares about her. And I mean, it's solid enough. Simone does say, "Well, Miguel's gonna hate you." Right? Like, how are you going to end up with Miguel? You might break them up, but Miguel's going to hate you if you tell her the truth. Kay's like, I'll cross that bridge when I get to it, right? This is when Simone goes to call Chad, and then Tabitha finds Kay and asks her about, like, have you seen a little Richard Nixon or Martha Stewart? Kay's like, no. And then they have a conversation about Charity and Miguel, wherein Tabitha tells her Charity needs to know the truth. Charity needs to know the truth right away. And if you want, I'll take you to the hospital. So Kay ditches Simone at the book cafe for Tabitha, and they go to the hospital together. And at the hospital, Cecil and Connie have made it there first, right? So they sneak into and it's not even really sneaky. I don't know how people are missing them. But they sneak into Charity's room and tell her, like, trick or truth. Like, it's, and she sees them and she thinks they're just like such sweet little kids trick or treating. And she's like, don't you mean trick or treat? And they're like, no, trick or truth. But we will come back to that because I need to talk about what else is going on at the hospital before Cecil and Connie show up. So before they show up at the hospital, Charity is having a conversation with Miguel, wherein she tells him, I feel like something's trying to come between us. And she's been feeling like this for a while. And Miguel keeps telling her, no, there's nothing trying to come between us. Even though at this point, Kay has basically told him, I'm trying to come between you and Charity. Right to his face, basically. He's like, no, you're crazy. Nothing could ever break us up. Nothing's trying to come between us. And he's like, but what could possibly be trying to break us up? And she's like, I don't know, maybe a secret, but I know you would never keep a secret from me, Miguel. And then this is when Father Lonigan shows up, and Miguel says that he's the one that called him. He's like, Father Lonigan's here to help us work through something. And of course, I'm like, oh, he called in Father Lonigan to help them kind of work through him telling the truth to get some support. I was like, okay, you know what? It's not actually a bad idea, especially since Charity really respects Father Lonigan so much. But no, that's not why Father Lonigan is there at all. The problem they need to work through is the fact that they're going to be getting married soon, and there's people in town who might think that they're too young to get married. And so Father Lonigan is like, but, you know, I think you'll be fine as long as you take my 6-week course. No, as long as you do my, like, premarital counseling sessions. Basically, I rewound it a couple of times. I couldn't hear or understand exactly what the word he was using when he was talking about, like, you'll take this course, basically. But I took it to mean it was basically they need to do some kind of counseling with him before they get married. And he says, but once you do that, I'm sure people will, and I basically give you a seal of approval. Nobody will be worried about you being too young to get married. And then Charity's like, well, I'm not worried about our marriage because my mother told me before she died that communication is the key to a happy marriage, to a great marriage. What did your mother know about a marriage? You are a bastard. Her last name was Standish. Your last name is Standish. That lady was not married. What does she know about marriage?
Yeah.
So, and yeah, we never saw her with a husband at all. But yeah, communication, and we have great communication. We don't have any secrets from each other, Miguel.
She is insufferable.
She really is, actually. You know what? She's not at her worst right now, though. I can give her a little
Yeah.
bit of a pat. She's simply not at her worst. She has been way worse. Right
Hmm.
now, especially in a few minutes, I actually kind of liked Charity, believe it or not, in a moment or two. Um, so there's some conversation about mass. He's here to like perform mass because when you were trapped in that ice cube for so long that you haven't had mass in a long time, Charity. And I'm here to like do a private mass and Eucharist and confession. And then he's like, but you were in the Charity, you were in the ice for so long, I'm sure you have nothing to confess. Oh my god, that was so funny to me. What could you
Yeah.
possibly have to confess? You've been on ice for months. And so she's like, yeah,
We thought you were dead.
yeah,
No, we thought you were someone who was actually a zombie pretending to be you.
yeah.
You were frozen in a block of ice.
Yeah, yeah. And everybody's saying it so casually.
Uh-huh.
When you were frozen in that block of ice, for months, you couldn't do anything. So how could you possibly need confession? And so he takes Miguel outside to make confession. And so they go out into the hallway, and Miguel confesses, I made love to Kay and I haven't told Charity about it. That's what he
Hmm.
tells Father Lonigan. And he explains that the situation, that he doesn't know how it happened. And Father Lonigan has a memory of Kay asking him for absolution and him denying her absolution, saying that she has to tell the truth and otherwise he can't give her absolution. And he's like, I know how this happened. It was evil. Maybe it was the fact that you told her what was in that vial and then let her leave with it. The essence of
Hmm.
charity vial, right? You didn't insist that she pour it out right then and there. You gave her the idea to use it for herself and then sent her on her merry way. Father Lonigan, Father Useless.
Hmm.
And so yeah, he's like, it was evil, even though he also knows it was Kay, right? And so after Miguel makes his confession, Father Lonigan tells him, I can't absolve you, but you must tell Charity the truth to relieve your guilt. And he says, you need to tell her before someone else does, because that could be disastrous for your relationship. Cecil and Connie, this is when they sneak into Charity's room and they say trick or truth. And Charity's like, oh, you're so cute, but it's not trick or truth. It's trick or treat, silly. And they're like, nope, this is trick or truth. And then they like Wonder Twin powers activate, put their hands together, and then they shoot truth lightning at her. And it hit her in her chest, and she gets this vision of Kay and Miguel making love together. And she's like, oh no, what is this, and they're like, it's the truth. You're and I didn't write down their little witty lines. Did you write those down? I didn't write them down. I knew they were witty, I knew they were cute, funny. I just didn't get it down. Yeah.
Yeah,
Basically
I
they were like,
don't think I
yeah,
wrote
your
anything
cousin
down.
your cousin and your boyfriend did the do together, did the nasty. It was like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, believe it, sister. Your boyfriend and your cousin are doing it. Like, and so she's like very confused about this whole situation, but she starts screaming, no, 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 Eve and Miguel come rushing into her room because of course her like heart monitor's going off. She's so agitated. And Eve tells her, you have to calm down. You have to calm down. You're gonna do damage to this heart, your brand new heart. And she explains there were these two kids in here in these weird masks, and they told me something crazy. Of course, neither Eve nor Miguel believe her, right? Because Miguel never believes her. He's like, I didn't see anything, and Eve's like, yeah, I didn't see anybody coming here. Well, they were here. I saw them, and they told me that you were sleeping with Kay. Is it true? Is it true, Miguel? And she asks him outright, is it true, Miguel? Did you sleep with Kay? Right? Did you make love to Kay? She insists on knowing the truth. And then he turns around and sees Kay outside because Kay has shown up to the hospital. Father Lonigan blocks her from being able to go into Charity's room. He accuses Kay of, I'm sorry. He doesn't accuse Kay of anything, actually. He just won't let her go into the room. And then he senses evil because Tabitha's there with her. And Tabitha like
Mhm.
makes herself scarce, right? Because he says, "Who's here with you, Kay? Who's there? I sense evil." Kay looks at Tabitha and says, "Nobody. No one's here." And Tabitha, these two girls, Tabitha and Kay together, I'm loving this, actually. I love that Kay like did a solid for Tabitha, even though she didn't even really know why she was doing that, right? Like, why she doesn't know that Tabitha's a witch, even though everybody should know that Tabitha's a witch. She doesn't know Tabitha's like an evil witch. Why would she cover for Tabitha when Father Lonigan says, "I sense evil about you," right? I guess maybe she's starting to sense something about Tabitha. I hope so. I really hope so. But
I hope so too.
yeah, but I really enjoyed that little moment between her and Tabitha of them like kind of, it's almost a little like she's covering for her girlfriend, you know? And so
Hmm.
Tabitha kind of like slinks away, makes herself a little put some distance between her and Father Lonigan, but where she can still see what's going on, of course. And so when sorry, Charity has been yelling, "No, no, no," whatever. Miguel tries to calm her down. She asks him outright, "Did you sleep with Kay?" He turns around and sees Kay outside. He makes a beeline for her, does not answer Charity, makes a beeline for Kay, grabs her, pulls her to the side, and is like, "I thought I told you not to tell Charity that we slept together." And she's
But
like,
first, before he leaves the room, Charity asks if it's true. And for a while, he doesn't say anything at all. And then he starts gaslighting Charity and saying, "How could you think I would ever sleep with Kay?"
mm, mm-hmm. It gets worse. Like he comes back and he's worse. So yeah, he goes
Hmm.
out, he pulls Kay to the
Maybe that
side.
did happen after he came back. My notes may have gotten mixed up, but
I
yeah,
know that he
that made
denies
me
it.
angry.
I know he denies it when he comes back. I didn't put it in my notes that he denies it before he left, but whatever. He denies it either way. And yes, gaslights her about it. So yeah, he pulls Kate to the side. He's like, "I told you not to tell Charity that we slept together." And she vehemently denies telling Charity. She's like, "I just got here. How could I have said anything to Charity?" And he's like,
Hmm.
"I don't know, but somebody told her." And this is when Sam and Grace show up to the hospital after having gotten a phone call that Charity was like in distress. And Grace, when
Oh my
upon
God.
yes, she sucks. Upon seeing Miguel having kind of like this intense conversation with Kay, she looks at Sam and says, "I knew it. Kay's behind Charity's crisis." What the fuck? Grace, you know
Yeah.
what? Where's my.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
She. I was with Grace for a little bit tonight, but at this point, no. Um, I hate the way she treats Kay. She comes over and she grabs Kay and she says, "What did you do to her, Kay?"
Kay
Nothing.
says nothing.
Yeah, nothing. Tabitha is listening in and she comments, "Even when Kay is innocent, she gets blamed. Talk about motivation to do evil." I love that.
Hmm.
And so Kay very angrily tells her mother, "I didn't do anything to Charity. You always think everything that's wrong is my fault." Sam attempts to diffuse this situation and he says, "Your mother didn't mean to accuse you of anything." But what do you mean she didn't mean to accuse? She absolutely outright accused Kay of doing something to upset Charity and create this crisis for Charity.
Hmm.
And Sam tells Kay, "Your mother didn't mean to accuse you of anything. Let's just talk over here so we don't disturb your cousin." And then Grace asks Miguel what's going on. And Miguel tells her, "Oh, Charity just got upset about something, and then her blood pressure went way up, and then her monitor started going off. But Dr. Russell's in there with her now, and she's gonna be fine." Um, And then Grace says to Kay, so you weren't anywhere near your cousin when she got upset? And Kay's like, no, I wasn't anywhere near her. And then Grace is like, well, it's just that you and Miguel, I saw that you were talking and he seemed upset with you. And why were you talking so intensely when I came in? I thought that you had something to do with it. And Sam tries to stop her from saying that, but Kay says to her, you know what, Dad, it's all right. This is how Mom always talks to me when you're not around. Because Grace was truly, even though Kay had already said I wasn't even in there, I wasn't anywhere near her, Grace keeps questioning her, like, you did something. I know you did something, basically. And Kay says to her dad, this is exactly how she always talks to me when you're not around. And she's like, didn't you know that Jessica's your good daughter? A mention of Jessica, great. We haven't seen her in a while, in quite some time.
And Kay also says, Mom loves everyone 1,000 times more than she loves me.
Than she ever loved me. Yes. I feel bad for her. I do. Even though, yeah, she did do a lot of shit. She has. But this one little thing, this thing with Grace has been off the mark with her for a little bit, for a while.
Yeah, it's a habit where Grace, Kay's done bad stuff, but it is becoming a habit, and it will continue to be a habit that Grace flies off the handle and blames Kay for stuff that Kay has not done.
Yeah.
She always is jumping to conclusions about Kay.
Yeah.
And when you see Grace do that over and over, I can't blame Kay for being mad at Grace and for thinking, okay, she doesn't love me as much as these other kids. She's treating me differently. She always thinks I'm evil, so I might as well be evil.
Yeah. And at one point she's like, if I'm gonna do the time, I might as well do the crime, is what she says. And I'm like, you know what? I can't really argue with you on that, because so Miguel goes back to be with Charity. She asks him again, did you sleep with Kay? He lies through his teeth and says, tells her she shouldn't be worried about something that didn't happen. You shouldn't be worried about something that never happened. Yeah, gaslighting. Absolutely. Liar.
Just like Sam, I don't have any feelings for Ivy.
Yeah.
Bitch, you told Ethan an hour ago that you did. Stop lying.
At one point, so Sam says, kind of sides with Grace a little bit. Kay, it's not like overt. It's not like you did something. It's more like he's trying to smooth things, but Kay takes it as he's taking the Grace's side over her and is doubting her. And she's like, so see, she's got you doubting me now too. And she says, well, I don't give a damn if either of you believe me or not. This is when Eve comes out and tells them, Charity's resting now. She says, I gave her a sedative.
You want a sedative? Something to quiet your nerves.
She gave her a sedative, of course.
They should have given little Ethan a sedative. Maybe that would have helped him.
No, he didn't.
I'm being sarcastic, but that seems to be the only thing Eve can do.
It tracks. She should have given Theresa one. Theresa was losing.
Actually, yes, she was the one who needed the sedative.
Theresa needed a sedative for real. And then Miguel decides to stay the night, and Tabitha has like a little run-in with Father Lonigan, and it's nothing. He's just like, I'm gonna find you evil. I didn't even write it down. Like, even write it all down. Did you write anything down between her and Father Lonigan? He senses Cecil and Connie too, and he like puts out his cane.
Yeah.
Which, since when does he have a cane? Has he always had a cane? Oh, duh, Tara. I'm gonna cut that out.
Not the cane, but I don't know what it's called,
No,
but whatever the blind people use to go around. It's not a cane though. It's something
it's
different.
called a cane.
Oh. Okay, I didn't know that.
I'm pretty sure it's called a cane. It's not the same as like a walking cane, but I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
That. Yeah, it's called a white cane. Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't know it was a white cane, but okay, cool. So yeah, he uses his cane at one point trying to like catch Cecil and Connie, but of course they evade him, and he has a
I
little
thought
run-in.
he I thought he didn't know the dolls were there. Maybe I didn't see something, but I wrote, why doesn't he sense the dolls?
He
Because
didn't sense
everything
them.
seemed focused on Tabitha.
He didn't sense them at first, but then they're together, and then he can kind of he. I took it as because of the way he was motioning with his cane, and it was like he was getting low, and he was like trying to like stop them from moving, like trying to tap
Oh,
them.
okay.
And so I thought maybe that was him realizing that they were there too, that there was more than just Tabitha there. But I could be wrong about that. It's not important. Whatever. Moving on to Shoeies. Do you have anything to add to Magic before we finish up here?
Uh, we missed some stuff with Kay and Miguel because Miguel wants to stay the night with Charity.
Right.
And I think Eve tells him that, or he gets permission from
I
Sam and
left it
Grace or
because
something.
it didn't. I didn't talk about it because it didn't change anything. There was a conversation where she was like trying to get him to go back to their house to take a shower, and then Eve was like, "No, you can take a shower here." But in the end, in the scheme of things, he stays at the hospital with Charity, and there's like no movement, right?
Yes, because Miguel gets in the shower and Kay gets in with him.
My episode must have been cut off. I didn't see that.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, because Kay, I get
You know what I just realized?
what?
I did not watch the last 4 minutes of these episodes. I was coming back from Jersey from seeing Beyonce, and I had watched almost all of it, and we got back to my apartment and I had 4 minutes left, and I never finished it.
Okay, that's what happened in the
So
4 minutes.
finish that for
Miguel
me.
goes to take a shower in the on-call room. Kay, I forget exactly how she found him there, but it's like, which was weird because she's walking down the hospital. She sees through a window with the blinds open that Miguel is in the shower. Why would you leave the blinds open? And then she goes around to a door and walks in, takes off her clothes, and gets in the shower with him. And she goes up to him and they kiss.
Are you serious?
Or maybe, hang on, because
Oh
Charity
yeah.
is also having.
Charity's
Okay,
having
never mind.
premonition.
She just gets in the shower with him. I don't think they kiss at that time. But Charity, even with her sedative, is somehow tossing and turning in bed, having a nightmare about seeing Kay and Miguel together in the shower kissing. She wakes up again, even with this sedative, and screams. And she's like, I have to go and find Miguel. And she gets out of bed. And I have Kay and Miguel kiss. That's the last note I have. I'm not sure if that's what
Yeah,
she's.
I'm like looking at it right now. I'm not listening to it, but I can see you're describing exactly what's happening. She gets out of bed. He is kissing her. Miguel.
Okay, so that actually did happen. I couldn't remember if that was what she was seeing or what was actually happening.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, because I had no clue. So then what happens with this nurse? Who's this nurse calling? Anyway, whatever. So now, see, I'm seeing Theresa and Ethan together, and I didn't see, this is why I didn't realize Gwen
Oh, the ring?
didn't have a ring on her finger and Theresa hadn't
Yeah.
seen it. I didn't see these last 4 minutes of this episode. And God damn it, Tara. And then I'm so tired, to be honest. I am exhausted. And so you're gonna have to finish Sharice for me at the end, because I see that they are having a little conversation. I have no clue what they talked about. So
Okay.
for those last minute and a half or so. So thank you so much for picking up my slack there at the end of Magic. Now on to Shalice. Good Lord. Oh, wow. We should be able to do this pretty fast.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks.
Oh, brother.
That needs to be your little intro for Shawise from now on.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Because he does. I can't stand Antonio.
I can't either.
All right, so we're gonna pick up the Shawise storyline again. I'm gonna try and speed run this. I know I say that every time, and then I start to slow down, and this might be a double episode. We got on at 4:00. It's almost 7 now. I don't know. We've had breaks here and there, so maybe I'll do like a little intro and outro at the end of this, just in case. All right, so Shawise, Beth, and Luis are at the book cafe giving out candy because it's Halloween. Remember, everybody, it's Halloween. So they're giving out candy to trick-or-treaters, and Luis is thinking about Sheridan and how, it's been so tough since he broke up with her and forced her to go back with his brother. Then he and Beth kind of take a little trip down memory lane, talking about like when they were younger and everything. And then Luis questions Beth about why she never went out with any other guys after they broke up. And she says she wasn't interested in any other guys. She says, they weren't you. I didn't want to settle for anything less than the best. You're my dream man, Luis. And I don't want anyone else but you. So she's laying it all out there. Beth is being very honest about her feelings, at least about how she feels about Luis and why she hasn't ever moved on from him, or how she has never moved on from him. Luis is flabbergasted. He's like, what? He's like, I appreciate your feelings for me, but when I broke up with you, I never dreamed that you would put your own life on the back burner waiting for me. And she says, yeah, well, but now things are different and you're available. Girl, it's been an hour. It's been an hour since him and Sheridan broke up. Now you're available, and maybe this is what I've been waiting for my whole life. And he tells her, Beth, I really care about you, but I don't want to lead you on. I don't know when or if I'll ever be ready for another relationship. So he goes on to tell her, I've lost Sheridan 3 times, and he recaps how she was buried alive. There was that whole thing with her dying and coming back to life. And then she again died and came back to life with the boat explosion in Bermuda. And now he's lost her to his brother, right? And so she says, I understand losing someone you love, Luis. I mean, you dumped me twice. And then she says something. Oh, and then she says, and you made love to me again tonight, but then you said you thought it was Sheridan and that you don't really remember. So I know what it feels like to lose someone 3 times. I know exactly how you feel. No, you don't. These are not the same thing. I mean, okay, being dumped, okay. But he cited 2 times where Sheridan died and came back to life. Luis just broke up with you a couple of times, but whatever. She's like, I know exactly how you feel. Luis feels guilty and feels bad. He's like, I'm so sorry. I never, I hate that I hurt you. And she's like, no, don't say that. You've made me happier than I've ever been in my life, and I would do it all over again. Okay. And then he tells her that he doesn't understand or remember making love to her. Like, he doubles down on that, even though she's like pouring her soul to him. But he's like, I just want you to know and understand that I don't remember having sex with you, and I don't know why or how that happened. And she tells him, no, don't apologize, because he does apologize to her, like, I'm sorry. And she says, don't apologize. You've never hurt me. Sorry, she didn't say that. She said, yes, you have hurt me, but I still feel the same way about you, Luis. You're it for me. There can never be anyone else. And Luis tells her, I can't promise you anything because I'm still in love with Sheridan, as I have told you multiple times and you have seen with your own eyes. And he says, even though things are over for me and Sheridan, I can't stop thinking about her and thinking and hoping that there's a chance that we could get back together. I mean, obviously, because it has happened before. And so, I mean, they've overcome greater obstacles. Sheridan was dead. Sheridan Sheridan was dead. So y'all should be able
Twice.
to get over. Y'all should be able to get over Antonio's dead body, right? Like, can we get over that?
Step over his dead body, give her an engagement ring.
Yeah, and get to each
Come
other.
on, let's get married right now.
Yeah.
We don't know what will happen next.
Yeah, who knows? So we need to do this now. So, Beth then like thinks about her scheme and how she thinks it'll keep Sheridan and Luis apart forever, right? Like, not after what Sheridan saw tonight, she'll never take Luis back, right? And then she starts begging for Luis to give her a chance. If you change your mind, I'm the first in line. Honey, I'm still free. Take a chance,
Take a
on,
chance
me.
on me.
Yeah, take a chance, take a chance, take a chance. Listen, that song is the embodiment. Like, sorry, Beth is the embodiment of that song at this point, right? She is begging him to take a chance on her. Maybe me. I'm right here, Luis. I still love you, and we can be together. We can have a beautiful life together. And she tells him, I just want I want the best for you, no matter who it's with. And she says, even if that means getting back with Sheridan, like, I just want you to be happy, blah, blah, blah. We know that's fake. And he says, that's what makes you so special. And I hope that you're always in my life. I don't know, Luis. I don't know. After she tells you something like, I'm in love with you, you're it for me, there's no other man I could ever be with. I don't know. Draw a boundary at that point, because especially if you're not going to be with her. This is always going to be what?
He's taking it too far. He's trying to be nice to her and let her down easy, which I can understand, but he's doing it the wrong way, and he's giving her hope in what he's saying, because he's talking about how he likes her self-reliance, and he says, I've really put you through a lot, haven't I? And Beth says, but I'm a big girl. I'm in charge of my own life. It's okay. And that's when he says he likes her self-reliance.
Mm-hmm.
And she wants to know, what else do you like about me, Louise?
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, there's really nothing I don't like about you, Beth.
Oh, my God. And then Edna calls Beth and then just recaps about how she basically tricked Luis and all of that. And she threatens to come down to the book cafe and expose Beth, right? After her call, this was so funny to me. After her call with Edna, Beth goes back to her conversation with Luis, and she's like, oh, it's just my mom. He's like, is everything okay? She's like, yeah. She says, she's such a sweet old thing. And Luis says, and so are you. A sweet old thing.
I didn't catch that. That's good.
And it reminded me, there's a part in Arrested Development where Lindsay is telling Michael, like, oh yeah, mom did this for me, she's such a sweet old thing. And Michael says, mom is only two of those things, right? And then later on in the episode, he's like, where'd you get this from? Or he's asking her about something. She's like, old thing gave it to me. Oh, she's just such a sweet old thing. Old thing is right.
And this new name is Old Thing.
Yeah.
Like Kay is soulless creature.
Soulless creature and old thing. But yeah, it was just so funny that she says, oh, she's such a sweet old thing. And Luis is like, so are you. Sweet old thing. I was describing an old lady. Don't say I'm the same.
Yeah.
So anyway, Luis says he appreciates her for sharing her feelings with him, and she stops because he's, like you said, he's trying to let her down easy. He's about to let her down easy, and she stops him short. And she says, "This is when she says, I'm a big girl. I'll be fine," basically. And then this is when Luis gets the call from Ethan that something's wrong with the baby, so he decides to go to the mansion to check on his family. Beth insists on going to the mansion with him. Like, no, I'll find somebody to lock up, because reminder, she's at work, right? Like, she's working a shift at the book cafe. And she's like, no, I'll find somebody to lock up and I'll come with you. You need me. No, he doesn't, but whatever. This is when Edna finally makes her way inside after having encountered Cecil and Connie. And so she's covered in shit. She's covered in shaving cream and eggs and toilet paper. And Edna shows up and Beth tries to leave her there. She's like, she enlists a different employee. She's like, can you take my mother to the bathroom and get her cleaned up? And her mom's like, no, I don't want that person doing any. No, you have to do it. I need your help. And at this point, Luis has already left. He's like, I can't wait. I have to go. And Beth tries to follow after him, but Edna like grabs her and then they fall to the floor and she falls on top of her. She gets all her crap all over Beth. And so Beth, Beth, it foils Beth's plan pretty effectively this time. Edna usually is not very effective, but this was one time where I was like, okay, she managed to keep Beth away from Luis and Sheridan for once. And I appreciated it, honestly. Meanwhile, at the mansion, Sheridan and Antonio go there and they talk to Eve about Antonio's health. Why? When did that happen? Oh, they never did. Okay. They went to the mansion to talk to Eve because they found out Eve was at the mansion about Antonio's health. But when they get there, of course, there's all this hubbub about the baby. And then Gwen ends up talking to Sheridan about like, she thinks Ethan's going to propose, yada, 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 all of that. So that's when Antonio goes to check on little Ethan, and Sheridan and Gwen have their own little conversation. In the hallway, Antonio runs into Rebecca. And
I love this part.
And she, first of all, she's shocked to see him alive because she tried to kill him, right? She's like, "Oh, Antonio, are you okay? Are you well? You don't look so good." And then she asks him, like, "Hey, do you like showers?" You like showers?
Yeah, because this was after the stuff with Ivy and Sam. So she has an idea. She's like, my shower's always available if you need a shower.
If you need a shower.
Got nice hot water.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, it was just a funny little moment for Rebecca. So he goes upstairs. He's dealing with the baby stuff. Sheridan talks to Gwen and brings Gwen up to speed on everything that's been going on between her and Luis and how she saw Luis kissing Beth. Then she saw when she went back, because she had talked to Gwen. Gwen already knew that. When she went back, she saw Luis making love to Beth. So they had they have a conversation about that. Gwen once again tells her it has to be a misunderstanding. I don't believe this. And then Sheridan wonders, how can I win back Luis? She thinks it's too late for her to get Luis back. I mean, I guess if you've seen what Sheridan saw, that it would, but yeah. And I do always say actions speak louder than words, and that was a crazy action to see. Even though Luis has told her repeatedly over and over again that, like, I love you, I want to be with you, you're the only woman for me, I don't want to be with Beth, I already broke up with Beth, blah, blah, blah. But it would be hard for me to have seen that and think, okay, without talking to him at least, if you don't talk to him, it just seems like he's chosen her. It was easy for me. I guess what I'm trying to say, it's very easy for me and us as viewers to be angry with Sheridan about not having a conversation with Luis about this and just kind of resolving herself to just, I'm going to be with Antonio now, I guess, because Luis has moved on, instead of having a conversation with him. But that's a tough thing. That's a tough pill to swallow. Like, she thought she saw them having sex, right? So, and yeah, I actually can't fault her too much for this. Yes, it's infuriating because we know what's actually going on, but she doesn't have all the information. But Gwen tells her it has to be a misunderstanding. And then Sheridan starts talking about, like, well, I can't give Antonio a death sentence just so Luis and I can be together. And Gwen tells her, like, don't give up, Sheridan. You have to fight for your man. And then Sheridan says, she talks about how she feels trapped. She feels trapped because of Antonio's illness. And then she's like, and I really would feel guilty. And for a while, I thought we were doing this thing where she's like trying to run out the clock on Antonio. But now it seems like she also is gonna like drag this even after he's dead, because she says, I don't know how well our relationship would work with Luis. I would feel horrible if every time I'm with him, I just feel happy that his brother's dead. And I have so much guilt about his brother being dead. And because his brother's dead, that means that we can be together. And like, okay, Sheridan, come on. Relax. You need a sedative.
You want a sedative or something to quiet
She
your
needed a
nerves?
sedative.
What's driving me so crazy about this is it's all the time they're talking about the shot could kill him, the shot could kill him. And Sheridan says something along the lines of anything could worsen Antonio's condition. So think about it logically. Anything could kill him. It doesn't matter if it has anything to do with you and Luis or not. Any shot could supposedly kill him. On the other hand, you've seen all this shocking stuff happen to him already. He's had some health issues, but he hasn't died. Take a chance. Listen to ABBA. Take a chance, Sheridan.
Take a chance. Take a chance. Take a chance. Take a chance. Yeah, I agree 100%. He hasn't died. He's fine. He is fine. And so Gwen gives Sheridan this whole speech about like, you need to fight for your man. Look at me. I fought for Ethan and now he and I are gonna get engaged, blah, blah, blah. And then Sheridan's like, I can't fight for Luis. My situation is so different from yours because if I fight for Luis, then Antonio will die. It's like, okay. Then Gwen is like, but what I don't understand is, how could Antonio be completely oblivious to your true feelings? She says, I think I would know if the man I love didn't really love me. Which, of course, we can read into, but I won't.
Very good point from Gwen.
Yeah, it's a great point from Gwen. Like he should have figured it out. That there was she clearly has not been as affectionate with him, but they have like decided, and the Passions writers did this, have decided that all of the weirdness between Sheridan and Antonio, he believes is just because he's sick, right?
Yeah. At the beginning of these episodes, when they're still at the cottage, he comes in the room and he sees she's upset and distracted. And he sits down with her and he says, "You're still worried about my health, aren't you?"
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. So they've decided that that's all there is for Antonio anyway. That's the only thing. That's why it's going to explain away all the weirdness and awkwardness that's happening around him, is that everybody's just weird and awkward around him because he's dying.
Yeah.
And
everything's about him.
Yeah, everything is about him, actually. This actually is about him.
Right.
It really is. And it's something that is about him and he refuses to like acknowledge it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
that lines up with the character really well, actually.
Yeah.
He thinks all this stuff is about him that is not, and he doesn't see the stuff that is actually about him.
Yeah. So Pilar shows up and asks Sheridan about, what about Antonio? What's been going on? And Sheridan said it's just more about Sheridan thinking Antonio will die. But then actually she does say something that I found very interesting. Because Pilar is like, well, remember you said you wanted to tell Antonio and control. Oh my God, Tara. Remember you wanted to tell Antonio in a controlled environment? And Sheridan says, well, yeah, but what if I tell Antonio, but then it's too late and Luis still won't take me back? Then I've lost them both.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was kind of nasty.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of nasty.
That's very selfish.
With Antonio. Yeah. Because you can't have Luis, you'll just take Antonio. You're like, well, I guess this will do until he dies.
Right.
Oh, I didn't like that at all. What if I tell Antonio, but then Luis, it's too late for me to get back together with Luis and I've lost them both? I don't know about that. This is when the nurse shows up with the drugs, and this is how Pilar finds out that something's wrong with little Ethan. So she goes to deal with that. again, Gwen says, because Sheridan's like, what's wrong with little Ethan? And Gwen's like, I'm not sure anything's actually wrong, but they said he was sick. No, she says it to Pilar. She says that to Pilar. She says, I'm not sure that anything's actually wrong, but, Eve's up there with the baby. So after all the hubbub with the baby, Pilar and Antonio have a conversation in the library where he tells her that he could never make a bargain with God the same way Theresa did, like that same kind of bargain, because he would much rather die young than lose a day with Sheridan. Cause I'd rather die young than live my life without you. I'd rather not live at all. Yeah, like Beyonce. That's Beyonce, everybody. So again, back to R&B. Sunday? Is it Sunday? Yeah. Anyway, he says, I'd rather die young than live my life without Sheridan, or lose a day with Sheridan. And then he explains, I know about my condition. I know I'm dying, and I can die happy because all my dreams have come true. Sheridan loves me and only me. Again, with the constant reassuring of yourself, Sheridan loves me, she doesn't love anybody else, and Sheridan and I are gonna get married. And shut up.
This was all of this was a lot, where he was talking about, I've had a wonderful life.
I almost spit out my drink.
Sorry. I've had a wonderful life. I want Sheridan to be my wife. I have everything a man can ask for. She loves me and only me.
Yeah.
Like, mama, just be happy for me. I can die young, but I'll die happy.
That was such a good Antonio impression. I love that.
Thank you.
Next time we play
on my southern accent.
Next time we play Mafia or do role playing on the watch party, you have to do Antonio. You have to.
Okay.
And so anyway, this is when Eve enters after all of that nonsense. Eve enters this scene and says, Antonio, you want to speak to me before I left? And he's like, yeah, doc, I want to know about my medical condition. Sheridan told me I'm dying. And she's like, oh, she did? It's like, yeah, you should have told him he was dying. And so he's like, give it to me straight, doc. How long do I have? And he says, I don't know. I can't give you an answer to that question. Of course, she doesn't know anything. But she says, but you know what? Come to the hospital. We'll run more tests. We'll do some assessments, and we'll try to figure something out. I'll try to see what we can do for you. Right. And he's like, okay, thanks, doc. He has taken the news of, one, that he's dying very well, and two, the fact that everybody was lying to him and keeping it from him, including the doctor.
Yeah.
I would not take this news that well.
Ignores that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a great point. I didn't think about that. Why would you not at least have some questions back at these people? Why didn't you tell me this very important thing?
Yeah, in particular, Eve, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why he doesn't have a little bit more ire for Eve, because what she did was unethical, unprofessional, and very illegal. So, but whatever, he doesn't care. He doesn't care. This is when Louise shows up to the mansion, and then he and Sheridan are alone in the living room. They share a very awkward encounter with each other. They can't even look at each other. I didn't write down the dialogue because there was barely any dialogue. But Louise does say something about basically I want you to be happy. I'm glad that you're moving on with my brother. Something to that effect. Did you write it down?
I don't really have anything written down, but yeah, awkward silences, weren't looking at each other.
Yeah, we're closing in on the end of this. So they have a very awkward encounter before Antonio and Pilar come back into the scene, and Antonio comes in and immediately like embraces Sheridan, and Pilar walks over to Luis and is like, be calm, mijo, like it's okay, tries to keep him calm. And like, I know this is hurting you, whatever. Then Antonio asks to speak to Luis alone, and Pilar tells Sheridan what Antonio told her about like dying young and being happy about it because all his dreams have come true. And she goes on to say, I know how much you love Luis, but then Sheridan cuts her off saying it doesn't matter how much I love Luis because Luis has moved on with Beth. And she says, Antonio never had to know how much I really Antonio never has to know how much I really love his brother. Jesus Christ. Oh gosh. Antonio never has to know how much I really love his brother. God. So they're just really double and tripling down on the whole Luis has moved on with Beth, and it's irritating the crap out of me, to be honest. It's just, like I said before, we're just doing the imposter thing again, all over again, where they have had a misunderstanding and are refusing to have a conversation about it. And yeah, so anyway, outside, Antonio tells Luis about that he knows about his condition. At first he thought that Sheridan had told him the truth about like their relationship, but it turned out she only had told him about his condition. And Antonio asks Luis he says, will you and Beth take care of Sheridan once I'm gone? Because she's gonna need, people take care of her. He says, I'm so lucky to have her in my life, and as long as I live, I'm gonna be the best husband I possibly can be. But until I draw my last breath. And then Luis starts to get choked up because I think not only the thought of Sheridan being with his brother, but also the fact that his brother's like talking about his mortality, and like we know his death is imminent, right? And so Luis gets a little choked up. I think and it seems like he's really choked up about the fact that Antonio is dying, and that Antonio now knows, right? And that is kind of more, now that he knows, I think it seems more real to Luis, because I think Luis was taking it a little bit lightly because he was like, I think everybody's blowing this whole thing out of proportion, right? But it seems like he really, with this conversation, it really like hit home for him that, oh, actually my brother is dying, and that's a hard pill to swallow. That's something, it makes me sad. So this is actually when he asked for him and Beth to take care of Sheridan once he's gone. Luis says, of course. And then Antonio's like, I can't hear you. He's like, I didn't hear what you said. What was it? And Luis is like, I promise. And then they hug. And then Luis and Sheridan are left alone again, and they interact very awkwardly. But I don't have anything after that. What happened? Because I didn't watch the last 4 minutes of the episode.
Oh my gosh. And I was getting fed up with it all by then too, so my notes aren't good. I have Luis and Sheridan are alone and can't look at each other. Luis and Sheridan start to straighten things out. So I think they did slowly begin to talk to each other, and he's realizing, okay, she does still want to be with me instead of my brother.
Yeah.
My brother, but she's still really upset about possibly doing something that will kill him. And I think she's slowly realizing, I don't think she comes out and says anything about seeing him sleep with Beth, but he says something that lets her know, oh, you do still love me. You do still want to be with me.
Okay. All right. Okay, great. I hope they start to straighten this out, because I cannot do 300 episodes of like the imposter thing again. I can't.
Yeah.
So
And they're definitely not like, oh, I want to be back together with you right now. But it did look like they were starting along that path at the end of this
okay,
episode.
they're moving in the right direction. Love to hear it.
Yeah.
So that is it for the episode. Thank you so much for being here, Karen. You're such a trooper. We have been on this call since 4:00. It is now 7:44. So we have been at this for quite some time. So thank you for being here, and you were great. Where can the people find you online?
I'm Karen for America on Instagram, or you can find me on the Discord. I'm just Karen on the Discord.
All right. And you can find me on, Patreon, on the Discord, patreon.com/passionspodcast. Yeah. And with that, you are